milk is considered to be white gold. From when you joined till now, Amul has gone from 800 crores to 80,000 crores.
आज अमूल दुनिया की 8वीं सबसे बड़ी डेयरी कंपनी है। आपको इसे जल्द से जल्द दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी डेयरी कंपनी बनाना है।
Amul has mastered the art of optimizing for both profits and people. Sir, how would you go about solving this problem of MSP?
There are two dimensions to it.
My question is, how does the supply chain of Amul work to make sure that a razor thin margin product which is highly perishable like milk can go from the farmers to the customers, and that too with very high profitability?
In India, when you pay 100 rupees for Amul products, 85% goes back to the farm. And we sell close to 200 lakh liters of milk every day.
Amul is one of the first brands to launch high protein lassi, high protein buttermilk, high protein milk, and so many other things. Sir, my question is, why didn't any other brand do this before?
The value of output of milk, which is about say 12 lakh crores, is more than the value of output of wheat, paddy, oilseeds put together.
Most of the proteins in the market are absolute crap and they don't meet the standards. Since you have now entered into this space, especially to solve this trust deficit, what exactly is wrong with the protein market of India?
जो लोगों को फेंकने के पैसे देने पड़ते हैं, उसमें से हम लोग ये value-added products बनाते हैं.
This is a side of Amul that perhaps nobody knows. In fact, I don't think this is out there on the internet.
There is a case with a company, and I don't want to name it here in public. They blocked our product 15 days before the big season.
Do you think it is healthy for our economy to have MSP as a legal right? Before we move on, let me thank our partners Odoo for supporting our podcast. If you're a businessman, you know how challenging it is to manage everything. Imagine this, a fashion retailer in Mumbai struggles to keep track of sizes, colors and stocks across multiple stores, which leads to missed sales opportunities. And a warehouse in Bengaluru spends hours just for searching for products to fulfill online orders only because the inventory isn't organized properly. These are common problems in all businesses, and these problems cost time, money, and most importantly, they cost customer satisfaction. And here's why, ladies and gentlemen, Odoo has a magical tool for you. With Odoo's inventory app, your company can manage all your product lines through efficient stock organization, through serial numbers, lots, packaging, reservation strategies, cycle counting, KPIs, and more. Odoo also uses smart strategies like FIFO and LIFO to optimize your picking and packaging process, and it helps you reduce your picking movements with wave, cluster, and batch picking. Odoo's inventory management system offers full transparency and tracks products from purchase all the way up to sales. It also boosts productivity, reduces errors with barcode scanning, and streamlines operations, which will save you a lot of time and a lot of money. With Odoo, all businesses across India, from small stores to large warehouses, all of them can save time, reduce errors, and improve customer service. The best part is that Odoo gives you lifetime free access for your first app with hosting and support included. So if you want to manage your inventory effortlessly, click the link in the description to learn how Odoo can simplify your business today. Sir, it is a pleasure to have you here because हमने बचपन से अमूल के बारे में सुना है, हमने अमूल के products consume किए हैं. Today it is a matter of pride to have you over here, and you are perhaps the biggest business guest we've had yet. So thank you so much for taking out time to spend 2 hours here with us doing this podcast, sir.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is also mine. मैं तो नहीं कह सकता हूँ बचपन से आपके बारे में सुना है, लेकिन कई सालों से आपके बारे में सुना है, and the work you are doing. So it's a joy to be here, and we'll be happy to discuss.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, everybody knows the story of Amul right from the starting. But today, what I want to decode is the story of the modern Amul. And you've been with Amul for about 30 years now. And I was just reading some stat, and it told me that from when you joined till now, Amul has gone from 800 crores to 80,000 crores. So from 0 to 800, you weren't there, but you were a part of Amul's growth story from 800 to 80,000 crores, which is absolutely incredible. Today, even though Amul has been in the market for decades, nobody sees Amul as an old brand. They see Amul as a cool brand today. And that is because of your marketing, your advertisement, the way you communicate with your customers, your packaging, and every single product that you launch has this unique perspective. It has this unique blend of what is required in the market and what is cool in the market, which is what I find very fascinating. In fact, Srivatsa is not over here, and I just told you before the shoot itself that अभी जो आपका प्रोटीन का जो कैटलॉग आया है, उस प्रोटीन के पोर्टफोलियो में से श्रीवत्सा लिटरली हर प्रोडक्ट आपके वेबसाइट से जाके पूरा का पूरा खरीद लेता है. जितना स्टॉक वो खरीद सकता है उतना वो खरीद लेता है. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स ही फाइंड्स दैट द product is out of stock. There is so much demand for your protein products. And what I can sense is that Amul doesn't just operate like a food company, it operates like a tech company. So today, I just want to decode the journey of Amul, the behind the scenes of this tech company that nobody knows about, and to try and understand what exactly is Amul's growth story. And more importantly, we also want to understand what are the lessons that today's entrepreneurs can apply with the story of Amul. Because हमको पता है कि अमूल इतना लेजेंड है, बट हम अमूल जैसे कैसे लेजेंड बन सकते हैं, दैट इज व्हाट वी इंटेंड टू कवर इन दिस पॉडकास्ट, सर. Shall we get started?
Sure. Thank you so much.
So the first question that I have is about Amul's business model. India is going from socialism to capitalism today. And there is a problem with both socialism as well as capitalism. Capitalism क्या बोलता है? We will optimize for profits. And in the race of optimizing for profits, they end up compromising on the people and the product. Whereas when it comes to socialism, socialism doesn't optimize for profits, it optimizes for people. But in the race of optimizing for people, it ends up compromising on the profits. As a result, it results into an unsustainable business model. But when it comes to the Amul model, the cooperative model, it is so special that it lies perfectly between capitalism and socialism. And I was just watching your interview wherein you said that if 100 rupees is spent by the customer of Amul, 85 rupees goes to the rural India, the farmers of India, and the rest 15% is what comes to Amul. And even then, today you're doing a revenue of more than 80,000 crores and you're generating thousands of crores in profits. So what is so special about the Amul model?
Well, you answered a lot of questions while asking it, and that actually is the beauty of this model. So as you know, the story of Amul started way back in 1946. It started where the farmers were being exploited by the middlemen. And somebody who had access to the market of Bombay, where we are today currently, is where they were not getting the right price of milk. So these farmers went to meet Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. India was in the middle of its freedom fight. And Sardar Patel inspired these farmers of Kera district to come together and form a cooperative. So this is where the genesis of Amul, where Amul started, the genesis of Amul and the cooperative model started. And we started with just 2 village societies and 247 liters of milk. तो ये जो 3 tier मॉडल का जो ढांचा है, ये बना विलेज सोसाइटी, डिस्ट्रिक्ट मिल्क प्रोसेसिंग यूनियन एंड द स्टेट मार्केटिंग फेडरेशन.
Village society?
Yeah. At the village level, where all the farmers are the members and the owners, the village societies own the district milk processing union.
Okay.
And the district milk processing unions of Gujarat own the state marketing federation, which is the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation.
Okay.
Okay. So today we handle more than 310 lakh liters of milk every day. We have 107 dairy plants. And I'm also happy to say that as per independent surveys and research is done, Amul has been ranked as the strongest food brand in the world and also the strongest dairy brand in the world. Amul is known as a value for money brand because we have a mandate to grow the market. We have a mandate to give the best quality products to the consumers. So we don't necessarily charge the highest price for the products, though we have a very, very strong market share in every category you operate. But the objective is not profiteering. The objective is to grow the market, make the products available, affordable to grow the market. And so we don't sell it the highest possible price. So you're buying it at the highest possible price, not selling the finished product the highest possible price, and work with very low margins, very low cost, very low overheads. And that's how you keep both the ends of the spectrum happy. Producer on one side and consumer on the other side.
So you talk like a capitalist and you act like a socialist, which is very, very interesting. Sir, you spoke about the cooperative model, whereby you buy at the highest price and you sell to the customers at the lowest price. Whereas when it comes to the private companies, they do the complete opposite. They buy at the lowest price and they sell at the highest price. Sir, on paper, had Amul not existed, this model doesn't make any sense at all. Because if a capitalist hears that an 80,000 crore company could be built by buying a product at the highest price and selling it at the lowest price, it doesn't make any sense. And more importantly, it doesn't make any sense for a product like milk, which anyways has a razor thin margin of anywhere between 3 to 5%. On top of that, it is extremely perishable. And within 4 days,
4 hours.
within 4 hours, milk will get spoiled.
Yes.
So, sir, my question is, when you're operating with such a situation, with razor thin margin, with a product that is so easily perishable, you are obviously operating at the height of efficiency. My question is, how does the supply chain of Amul work to make sure that a razor thin margin product, which is highly perishable like milk, can go from the farmers to the customers, and that too with very high profitability?
The profit, let me address the first things first. The profit is actually in form of a price you pay to the producer. And that you have to keep him compensated or her compensated to stay interested in this business. Okay. So this is the core of any cooperative, any business, and that's where the main essence of the business lies. You should be in a position to pay the right price. And
So, can you please explain this?
Okay. So the farmers need to get the right price of milk to be paid, because the farmer has to look after the cow, feed the cow, also look after his family. Because I mentioned they're not just in business of dairying, we are in business of livelihood and development of the people. So we have to continuously improve the socio-economic status of our members. Okay. Then we now look at how do we do it, because that's again very, very important. As you rightly mentioned, milk is very perishable and it can go bad within few hours of its collection if it's not chilled and processed in time. Now, Gujarat has 18,000 villages. We are in every single village. So from 18,600 villages and practically 3 million, we have 3.6 million farmers, but assume 3 million farmers are active every day. The cow gives milk twice a day. That's what the farmer brings in morning and evening. So the collection happens twice a day across 18,600 villages, 3.6 million farmers each time. Okay. That comes to 31 million liters of milk, or an average of 310 million liters of milk, 310 lakh liters of milk. It can go up to 370 lakh liters of milk in the winter season, come down slightly in the summer season. That's how the milk production cycle happens, because of the lactation cycle and how the calves get delivered, depending upon the time of the year. Now, when you collect such a large volume of milk, it has to be chilled also. So, and you have to pay the farmer also based on the quality of the milk that you collect. So every village cooperative society, there is an electronic fat testing machine. The farmer gets paid on the price of fat as far as the buffalo milk is concerned. You look at both fat and solids not fat for the cow milk. So there's a mixed milk pricing, there's a fat-based pricing for the buffalo milk. There's an electronic weighing scale and a bulk milk cooler, which chills milk immediately to 4 degrees centigrade the moment it is collected.
Bulk milk cooler.
Coolers, yeah. So there is a large steel tanks to capacity of 2,000 to 5,000 liters, and depending upon the size of the society and the volume of milk they have, milk is instantly cooled. So you've taken care of the first part, which is cooling. Most importantly, weighing of the milk and the quality of the milk, and that decides the price which is to be paid to the farmer, which is transferred to the farmer's bank account, depending on the cycle of payment which every milk society and the union has, which is typically 3 times in a month, on the 11th, 21st, and the last day of the month, or something like that. But coming to the supply chain part, and that's where handling of such a large volume of milk, 310 lakh liters of milk from such a large number of people, using the same technology platform. So every single transaction that we do, and I again repeat, 3.6 million transactions twice a day for the 31 million liters of milk, is on a common software.
Common software.
Yeah. So the SNF data is collected on the common software. The price paid is on a common software. Each of the farmer gets an SMS every day, every time, which means twice a day. You can see the same data on an app, which is with the farmers. And that app is a super app in which you can buy and sell cattle also. To call a veterinary doctor and register the treatment. You can buy cattle feed and have a transaction of your own. Wow. So the apps that we use for banks, our app for the farmer is also similar. So all the transactions are recorded. They get an SMS, which means there is a lot of trust and transparency in the system. So every day, assume you come to supply milk. And one day, if you're not in town and if the small child comes and delivers the milk, still the same transparency, same trust in the system is there, because they are owning this village cooperative society. The farmers are not suppliers in our case. The farmers are the owners. And that's how we created this structure to build in trust and transparency on a very, very large scale.
Got it.
Then they are supplied across the country in the nature of the product it is. So what we call is a distribution highway. Milk, buttermilk, dahi, all are fresh products with a shelf life of 2 to 7 days. So they move directly from the plant to the distributors. So the 100 plants which pack milk and milk and fresh products will supply to the distributors in vicinity of 250 kilometers of each of these plants. And we build that market, and the distributor and supply chain is exclusive for fresh products. Okay. Then is the ambient distribution highway, which is basically all the products which are stocked and supplied at the room temperature. Okay. So which is ghee, which is milk powders, which is Tetra Pak milk, which is beverages, all sold in ambient through the warehouses, 87 warehouses that we have, and 15,000 distributors, and they are sold to the million retail outlets. Same is chilled products at 0 to 4 degrees centigrade. So we need to have refrigerated vans, cold storages, and distributors also need to have cold storages, and is supplied again to the same set of million outlets. And then is the frozen product highway for ice creams at minus 20 degrees C. So you have ice cream plants which are more than 25 across the country. You have a set of products, and when we call a distribution highway, which means on a highway, the highway is viable if the traffic is more. So when we launch ice creams, then we launch frozen paneer, then we launch rice cheeses, then we have the frozen pizzas, then we have the French fries, and then we have the potato-based snacks and the aloo parathas and the samosas and so on, and pizzas and all, which will drive more traffic on the highway, makes things viable for the distributor because the cost of transaction and the supply chain becomes very, very low. The investments with the distributors we make in the setting up deep freezer cold storages at the cold stores, at the distribution level, at the retail level, all the cost is divided across a large number of products and the portfolio that we have. The business becomes viable at slower margins as compared to competitors, and this is a very, very unique supply chain model with no other company anywhere in the country or globally operates at such a large scale, such a large efficiency, bringing down the cost of transactions, increasing the value throughput, maximizing the returns, not just for the brand, but also the supply chain partners.
Got it, sir. So there is fresh distribution highway, there is ambient distribution highway, and there is frozen product distribution highway.
And chilled. The fourth one is chilled at 0 to 4.
The fourth one is chilled.
Yeah.
Frozen is minus
20.
Minus 20 degrees. So you mentioned highway, and I understand that this is a term which represents something more than what it just says. What exactly is this highway system that you consistently talk about? What is the Amul highway supply chain distribution system?
So this is what I mentioned, that when you have to deliver more than 50 products across different temperature sensitivity of handling. Like fresh products, you cannot have a warehouse to stock it. So milk has to move directly from the moment it is packed to the market twice a day. We have daily morning delivery supplies, evening supplies also, so that you are servicing the market continuously and fresh products are available to every customer in the vicinity of where the plants where we are marketing it. Then you make large number of products which are butter, like cheese at chilled at 0 to 4 degrees centigrade, which have a shelf life of more than 1 year. Similarly, milk powders and all, which have again a shelf life of 1 year. So there you need a very structured distribution. So this is typical FMCG distribution that you can see. I mean, you can compare it with others. But here we have to be continuously supplying fresh products to market. In the sense, everybody looks at the date of manufacturing of even a pack of soap you buy. So obviously, when you buy edible products, you are very conscious about it. You have to also have an ability to sell the entire range. So of the 1300 SKUs that we have, or the packings that we have, there are more than 650 which are in dry and chilled. There are more than 250 which are in frozen. There are more than 150 which are in fresh. So you have to see that from Srinagar in north or Leh in the north to Kanyakumari in the south, from Kutch in the east to Arunachal Pradesh in the east, you need to have the entire range of Amul or the maximum range of Amul available. Again, that too service to a large number of distributors through these multiple branches, but each of them not getting old in terms of the age of stock and the freshness and the freshest stock available to this. So today we have this capability that when we launch a new product, within 15 days, it would be available at each of the 87 branches. And within 3 weeks, it would be billed to more than half of the distributors of the country. So this is a very agile supply chain, and that is what it gives in a lot of strength to the brand and the ability to reach out in the what you call the freshest form across the country. And the fourth, of course, is the frozen highway at minus 20 degrees C. And when we launched ice creams about 25 years back, we created this highway from the scratch. And today we are the largest brand of ice cream, selling 3 times the more volume than the number 2 brand, which incidentally is being sold out now.
Sir, how is it that your system is so efficient? Because there are a lot of cooperatives which operate, but because of inefficiency, they shut down. There are a lot of businesses that operate, especially in the D2C space. They go out of business simply because they're not able to get the margins that they thought they would get. So if I were to compare Amul with the number 2, number 3 in the market, what exactly are the supply chain strategies that Amul deploys specifically to be able to deliver milk in such high quantities with such a fast speed?
The key to that, apart from the sourcing thing which I mentioned and the efficiency in sourcing, by paying the highest price of the raw material, is managing the product mix.
Managing the product mix.
So a lot of effort goes into planning the production of the SKUs that we have.
Okay.
And this is a continuous interaction which the Marketing Federation has with all the 18 district unions and the 100 plants which they operate. And simultaneously in the market with the thousands of distributors and the sales team that we have and the branch network that we have. So each one of them do the main job of planning of what is my sales plan, which is converted into the production plan, and the fresh products are to be done on a very continuous and iterative basis.
Okay.
Because milk demand changes by the time of the day, milk demand changes by day of the week, milk demand goes up dramatically during certain festivals and goes down also at times during vacations. So this is where you need to be continuously monitoring, having a clue of what's happening again, and you're not operating in isolation. There are competition, there are market forces, seasonality, unpredictable weather changes. For instance, we constantly keep an eye on what's going to temperature tomorrow. What's the weather going to be tomorrow, next day, 3 days? Because we know if there is a heat wave, which is going to happen 2-3 days down the line, you need to ramp up the production of curd and buttermilk. Now, dahi is doodh you can pack yesterday and immediately supply in the market. But for dahi, buttermilk, ice creams, there is a lead time which is required. Okay. So, but suddenly if there is a spike in demand, if the brand is not there, you lose out that opportunity. So it's very, very critical to be there. And that's why production planning becomes very important. Sales planning becomes very important. Factoring in the factors of what leads to changes in demand.
And which product will spike in demand.
Correct. Which variant will spike in demand. So
which considers multiple factors like weather, the festive season, the demand from the previous years. And then based on that, you decide, okay, now we're going to sell X liters of milk because the demand predictability says so. We're going to sell X liters of buttermilk. For example, if there is the temperature spikes, automatically the demand for buttermilk increases. So according to that, you manage your stock in such a way that you forecast the demand and then you regulate your supply, which helps you maximize your margins.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. So a large chunk of everything that you say is on the basis of the fact that milk is considered to be white gold because milk gives you a treasure trove of products. Sir, can you please help me understand value addition? Because we studied value addition when we made a case study on a brand called Milky Mist. And then we understood that milk is such a magical product. And as you keep adding value to milk, the gross margins keep on increasing. So any entrepreneur wants to enter this space to build a product out of milk needs to understand this value addition concept properly. So sir, can you please help me understand how do we go from milk to let's say ice cream or even further? And how do the gross margins keep on increasing with each product? Let's start with milk.
Okay. I'll be disappointing to a few of them who are thinking that you can take only one component and make money out of milk.
Okay.
Milk is a very composite product. Let me start very simple way. What is milk? So if you look at a glass of milk, it's 85% is water. Of the balance, this about say if you say average blend of cow and buffalo milk, you can say assume there's a 6% fat and 9% which is solid not fat, comprising of calcium, vitamins, minerals, lactose and protein.
Got it.
So any company which wants to get in has to have a clue of it will handle this perishable product. Selling it as milk in a packaged form, to my mind and as per our economics, is the best thing to do.
Selling a packet of milk is the best thing to do?
Yes, because this is the single largest value you can add to milk. Because when you acquire a customer of milk, it's very difficult to acquire. And let me tell you, to convert a person from loose to package and branded is very, very difficult.
Why, sir?
That's the mindset. हम तो बचपन से यही दूध पी रहे हैं, यही डेयरी का दूध पी रहे हैं, यही ग्वाला हमको दूध दे रहा है, हमको कुछ नहीं हुआ तो आपका पैस्चराइज्ड या पैकेट मिल्क हम क्यों लें? Very true. Every housewife, every consumer is very logical and also right. So it's very difficult to change anybody's habit, and that too for a very basic but most important product like milk. Everybody drinks milk. People know the guna of milk, and we swear by it. So the first challenge of marketing comes in. I mean, it is easy to sell anyone a pack of ice cream. Let me tell you, it's easy to sell anybody buy a pack of butter or a cheese, so to say. It's not so easy, but still it's easier than selling a milk, because you are converting and challenging the basic assumption of every housewife or every consumer कि नहीं, मुझे जो मेरा वाला दूध देता है वो सही है. Okay, which is true also, because that's how the India's milk industry has been built, and on trust and on a lot of factors. Few things happened which is actually helping the conversion from loose to package and branded. One big differentiator happened during COVID, where people started realizing what you eat is very important in terms of quality of food, in terms of consistency, in terms of its taste, and the physical parameters and the chemical parameters. Safety aspect become very important, and of course availability and affordability is also there. So this is where led to an induced a shift in the mindset of consumers and everything. वो प्रसाद भी पैक्ड होने लगा, दूध भी पैक्ड, लोग सोचते हैं अच्छा है,
पानी भी सर,
पानी भी पैक्ड होने लगा, मावा मिठाई में भी पैक, एटलीस्ट पीपल सेड के लूज में रिस्क है. ओके, पनीर अनदर कैटेगरी, सेम इन केस ऑफ दही, सेम इन केस ऑफ छाछ. एडिबल ऑयल्स में इसके पहले भी काफ़ी ये बदलाव आ चुका था, एंड शिफ्ट वाज हैपनिंग. सो दिस इज एक्चुअली टेलविंड फॉर द सेक्टर. Because in India, I gave out numbers of largest producer of milk in the world, Amul the largest brand, and so on. But still, in India, organized sector is only 1/4 of the total production of milk.
Which means 75% is unorganized.
Unorganized.
मतलब
उसमें से 1/3 दूध तो ऐसा है जो गांव में ही प्रोड्यूस होके गांव में ही लोग कंज्यूम कर लेते, घर में ही कंज्यूम कर लेते, उतना मार्केट में आता ही नहीं है. बट फिर भी जो मार्केट में टोटल प्रोडक्शन का भी 1/4 ही वो है, और उसका 1/4 इज अमूल. So India produces close to 232 million metric tons of milk in a year. सादी भाषा में बात करें तो 60 करोड़ लीटर हुआ. तो 60 करोड़ लीटर में से अमूल हैंडल्स 3 करोड़ लीटर. So it is just 5% of the total milk.
My God.
Okay. And 1/4 of the total organized sector milk. So which there obviously size and scale comes. अभी look at the opportunity for the brand. इंडिया का दूध तो हर साल 5% बढ़ रहा है प्रोडक्शन के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. ठीक है, तो 60 करोड़ का 5% 3 करोड़ लीटर हुआ. तो उसको अभी एक तरफ बाजू में रखते हैं, क्योंकि हर साल 3 करोड़ आपका इंडिया का प्रोडक्शन बढ़ने वाला है अगले 10, 20, 30 साल तक. जो लूज टू पैकेज वाली बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग, तो पहले प्री कोविड ये शिफ्ट था 1-2% का. इसलिए हम जब दूध बेचने जाते थे तो नया दूध लॉन्च करना है, नए मार्केट में दूध लॉन्च करना है, लोगों को लूज से पैकेज की तरफ शिफ्ट करना है, बड़ा मुश्किल होता था. पोस्ट कोविड ये सेंसेशन लोगों ने रियलाइज़ किया कि ये चेंज जरूरी है, तो एज्यूम 4-5% अभी शिफ्ट हम देख रहे हैं. तो 60 करोड़ का 5% हुआ 3 करोड़ लीटर. हम लोग हैंडल करते हैं 3 करोड़ लीटर. तो एक्चुअली अगर 5% लोग शिफ्ट करें हर साल, तो एक अमूल आप हर साल ऐड कर सकते हो इंडिया में. सो लिक्विड मीन पानी, फैट और SNF. तो दूध के फॉर्म में बेच दिया तो तीनों एक साथ हैंडल हो गई. अच्छा, मैं सोचूं कि नहीं मैं नया कंपनी हूँ, मुझे स्टार्टअप करना है, मैं सिर्फ घी बनाऊंगा. किए बहुत लोगों ने, बड़े नाम भी हैं, मैं नहीं ले सकता यहाँ पे. बोले वो कंपनी ने शुरू किया, सोचा कि हम घी में एंटर करेंगे. अच्छी बात है, डू इट. बट आप घी लोगे और घी बेचोगे तो आपके पास जो बाकी बचा, इन केस आपने मिल्क पाउडर जो कहते हैं स्किम मिल्क पाउडर, फैट निकाल दिया तो बचा सॉलिड्स नॉट फैट विच इज़ बेसिकली स्किम मिल्क. उसका क्या करोगे आप? फैट का तो दाम मिल गया, ये तो आपके पास पड़ा रहा, तो उसका भी तो आपको कुछ करना पड़ेगा. अच्छा, आप बाहर से खरीदोगे तो जब बाहर फैट सस्ता है तो आपको सस्ता मिलेगा, आप पैसे बना सकते हो. पर जो आपको फैट निकाल के दे रहा है वो उसके पास भी तो सॉलिड नॉट फैट या स्किम मिल्क पाउडर पड़ा है. अच्छा, 1/3 के दूध में 1/3 फैट होता है, 2/3 SNF होता है. सो यू सेल 1/3 प्रॉफिटेबली, व्हाट हैपन्स टू द रिमेनिंग 2/3? सो दैट इज अगेन ए चैलेंज. सो दिस इज वेयर पीपल गेट ट्रैप्ड. फिर कोई बोलेगा कि मुझे सिर्फ चीज़ बनाना है,
ओके,
मुझे सिर्फ पनीर बनाना है. अच्छी बात है, वो भी करो, उसका भी मार्केट है. ठीक है, पर मोमेंट आपने दूध में से चीज़ बनाया तो आपके सॉलिड्स काफ़ी सारे निकल गए उसमें से, पर बाकी जो बचा जिसको हम वे कहते हैं, उसका आप क्या करोगे? तो वो वे है, और उस वे का कोई डायरेक्ट प्रोडक्ट है नहीं. ओके, मैं एक मज़े की बात बताता हूँ. आपने देखा होगा घर में आप जब पनीर निकालते हो, जो पानी बचता है ना, हल्का सा फीका पेल कलर का पानी, वो वे होता है. उसके अंदर 0.6 to 0.9% प्रोटीन होता है. तो दूध में है ना 2 तरह के प्रोटीन होते हैं, केसीन प्रोटीन और वे प्रोटीन। तो आपने चीज़ या पनीर बनाया ना, तो केसीन प्रोटीन है ना उसके साथ चला जाता है। आप पनीर खाओगे, चीज़ खाओगे, 20% प्रोटीन होता है उसमें, तो वो केसीन प्रोटीन होता है ज़्यादातर, थोड़ा बहुत वे प्रोटीन होता है, पर जो बच जाता है वे में वो वे प्रोटीन होता है। तो आप अकेली कंपनी, अभी नाउ कम बैक टू द एंटरप्रेन्योर मॉडल, बोले मैसिव चीज़ बनाऊंगा, तो आपने चीज़ तो कर लिया, पर उससे बढ़िया इंग्रेडिएंट है वो उसने आपको पता ही नहीं आप कैसे हैंडल करोगे उसको। और मोटा मोटी जितना लीटर दूध चीज़ में बनाने में जाता है उतना ही वे आपके पास वापस रहता है, क्योंकि सॉलिड्स निकल गए पर लिक्विड तो वहीं रहने वाला है। तो अब उसका क्या करोगे? तो हमारे पास भी आंसर नहीं था उसका। पिछले कई साल से हम इस पे काम कर रहे हैं, तो अभी जो हमने वे प्रोटीन बेस्ड प्रोडक्ट्स बनाए हैं तो हमको पाउडर बनाने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं पड़ती। उसी वे से हमने प्रोटीन किया, सो वो 0.6-0.9% प्रोटीन को 7.5-8% प्रोटीन, जो हमारी अमूल की छाछ आप देखते हो, हाई प्रोटीन छाछ 25 रुपये में 200 ml पैक में 15 ग्राम प्रोटीन देते हैं, विच इज़ 7.5-8% प्रोटीन। तो वो 0.8 को आपने 10x किया और छाछ के फॉर्म में बेचा, तो एक टेस्ट अच्छा आया, क्योंकि प्रोटीन अदरवाइज इज़ नॉट टेस्टी।
करेक्ट।
शुगर नहीं है उसमें, फैट नहीं है उसमें, और स्वाद अच्छा है, जो आप जानते हो। तो वर्ल्ड में पहली बार किसी ने अगर हाई प्रोटीन छाछ बनाई, लस्सी बनाई, हमने की। फिर हम उसमें आगे निकल गए और फ्रूट डाला, तो ब्लूबेरी शेक है, 200 ग्राम्स में 20 ग्राम प्रोटीन, विच इज़ 10% प्रोटीन आ रहा है। हम सोचा इससे आगे क्या कर सकते हैं, तो फिर हमने हाई प्रोटीन मिल्क निकाला, विच इज़ सुपर मिल्क, 250 ml में 35 ग्राम प्रोटीन। तो इसमें एक नए लेवल ऑफ वैल्यू एडिशन पे आप पहुँचे बिकॉज ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी यूज़। फिर हमने बोला कि नहीं, स्टिल इंडिया में डिमांड वे प्रोटीन कॉन्सेंट्रेट की, काला डब्बा जो बहुत इंडिया में बिकता है, सो वी गॉट इनटू दिस स्पेस आल्सो, बट विच इज़ लैक्टोज फ्री वे प्रोटीन कॉन्सेंट्रेट दैट वी लॉन्च। तो अब 32 ग्राम का सैशे हम लोग प्री पैक बेचते हैं, उसमें 25 ग्राम प्रोटीन मिलता है।
लैक्टोज फ्री?
लैक्टोज फ्री है वो। हमारी लस्सी भी लैक्टोज फ्री है, हमारा मिल्क भी लैक्टोज फ्री है, हमारा वे प्रोटीन कॉन्सेंट्रेट भी लैक्टोज फ्री है, विच मीन्स पचने में आसान और आपको जो योग्य मात्रा में प्रोटीन चाहिए वो मिल जाएगा। देन वी लॉन्च हाई प्रोटीन दही, वी लॉन्च हाई प्रोटीन पनीर, हाई प्रोटीन मिल्क शेक्स, and we now have a portfolio of a good branded product. But the success is that we are the largest manufacturer of cheese in the country, largest manufacturer of paneer in the country. तो मेरे पास रोज का 25 से 30 लाख लीटर वे है, जो लोगों को फेंकने के पैसे देने पड़ते हैं, उसमें से हम लोग ये वैल्यूएडेड प्रोडक्ट्स बनाते हैं। तो वही चीज़ 500 रुपये किलो में बिकेगा और वे प्रोटीन कॉन्सेंट्रेट 2000 रुपये किलो में बिकेगा। जो वेस्ट था किसी के लिए बाई प्रोडक्ट है, किसी के लिए कोर प्रोडक्ट है, बट कंज्यूमर के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से आप देखो, सो आई हैव एक्सट्रैक्टेड द बेस्ट वैल्यू आउट ऑफ मिल्क,
विच इज़ वाई मिल्क इज कॉल्ड द व्हाइट गोल्ड।
करेक्ट। एंड हमारा भी ये पोर्टफोलियो बनाने के एक एक प्रोडक्ट बेचने का उद्देश्य नहीं है। वी हैव टू सेंसिटाइज एंड एजुकेट अवर कस्टमर्स, एंड इंडिया इज नाउ ए नेशन विच इज़ एफ्लुएंट, इट इज़ ग्रोइंग, अवेयरनेस लेवल्स आर प्रिटी इंक्रीजिंग। और आपके ऑडियंस में से 90% ऑडियंस को तो पता है कि प्रोटीन जैसी चीज़ अच्छी है, पर ये चीज़ हमको ज़्यादातर नहीं पता है कि ईच वन ऑफ अस रिक्वायर्स टू कंज्यूम 1 ग्राम ऑफ प्रोटीन पर kg ऑफ बॉडी वेट। तो यू हैव टू, ईच वन ऑफ अस हैज़ टू डू द मैथ्स, यू हैव टू डू एज्यूम योर वेट इज 60 kg, आपको ये हिसाब लगाना है कि कल मैंने 60 ग्राम प्रोटीन खाया कि नहीं खाया। आप किसी भी चीज़ में कर सकते हो, ऐसा ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आपको वे प्रोटीन कॉन्सेंट्रेट काला डब्बा वाला खाना है। आपने 1 गिलास दूध पिया 200 ml, 6 ग्राम प्रोटीन मिला, दही खा लिया 1 कप, 4-5 ग्राम प्रोटीन मिला, पनीर खा लिया 10-15 ग्राम प्रोटीन मिला। आप नॉनवेज खाते हो तो कुछ और थोड़ा प्रोटीन भी मिल जाएगा। पर ज़्यादातर लोग, और ये मैं अकेला नहीं कह रहा हूँ, नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ न्यूट्रिशन भी कह रहा है, डिफरेंट स्ट्रैटेजी भी कह रहे हैं कि वी आर डेफिशिएंट इन आवर प्रोटीन कंजम्पशन, वी आर नॉट गेटिंग 1 ग्राम इज आई एम टॉकिंग ऑफ दिस, NIN सेज इट इज़ 0.83, बट याद रखने के लिए 1 ग्राम इज गुड इनफ। सो वी आर डेफिशिएंट एज ए नेशन। सो वो डेफिशिएंसी कैसे पूरी करें? 2 तरीके हैं, आप बाहर से प्रोटीन इंपोर्ट करो, बट again another research says that 70% of protein sold in India does not meet the standards.
Correct.
So वो एक तो बहुत महंगा भी है, क्वालिटी डाउटफुल है, और कोई उसको ट्रस्ट नहीं कर सकता। So that's where Amul comes in to fill up this trust deficiency, quality gap, price efficiency, and a product range which is compatible to what we eat with our regular meal. And this is what will give us a big strength, because sourcing is inherent. मुझे एक प्रोक्योरमेंट के लिए 1 मिनट की भी मेहनत नहीं करनी है, क्योंकि ढेर सारा तो रॉ मटेरियल अवेलेबल है। All what's needed is getting the right technology to process it and pack it liquid to liquid, which means you are bringing down the cost, improving the efficiency, improving the taste, improving the biodigestibility, and making it acceptable. अब डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की बात करें तो अभी ऑनलाइन ही इसीलिए बेच रहे हैं हम लोग कि ये कस्टमर ज़्यादातर ये प्रोडक्ट ऑनलाइन खरीदता है. अच्छा, आप प्रोटीन एज एन इम्पल्स प्रोडक्ट नहीं पीते. आपको अभी मन हुआ तो आपने कॉफ़ी पी, कल सुबह चाय पियोगे, कभी आपने मिल्क शेक पी लिया, कभी आपने कुछ और बेवरेजेस ले लिए. बट प्रोटीन आपको रोज़ लेना है क्योंकि आपको ये गणित में बिठाना है रोज़ का कि मेरे 60 ग्राम मेरा हिसाब कहाँ से होगा. सो पीपल आर यूज टू बाई इट इन बल्क. And I'm serving it in bulk, but with portion packs of 200 ml pack or 32 gram sachets and so on. And a D2C approach helps because you start knowing who your customer is. Amul is a very big brand. Everybody in India knows Amul, but Amul doesn't know every single customer. So ये फायदा भी है, disadvantage भी है. So if we develop our D2C competence, then at least we will know every single customer. दूसरा, we will also avoid a dissonance in the mind of the customer. अभी कल सुबह पार्श जाके दुकान में गया, बोले लस्सी पीनी है उनको. अब अमूल की सादा लस्सी अवेलेबल नहीं है जो नॉर्मल जो पीते हैं वाइट पैकिंग में, और प्रोटीन वाली अगर मानो उस दुकान में है और ही इज़ नॉट ही consumer went to buy a protein lassi and he buys that lassi and tries it, the taste is obviously different because it's so high in protein as compared to others, and he will feel नहीं अमूल ने कैसा प्रोडक्ट बना दिया. But the same Parsh buys it online and keeps it with him and consumes one a day. वो बड़े शौक से चाव से पिएंगे. Okay, price wise कुछ ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं है, but at least matching the customer requirement and preference. So knowing every single customer, to me, marketing my next product will be very easy because all I need to send him a WhatsApp because I know him, his address and contact details. So I need to just inform him about new launch and see that we set up a delivery distribution system which is efficient, because end of the day all the e-com companies are basically good in courier service. So that is what do it. Now we have an advantage. As I mentioned, हमारे पास 87 branch offices हैं, 13 zonal offices हैं, 87 plus 13, so 100 ambient warehouses है, 100 chilled warehouses हैं, 100 frozen warehouses हैं, 100 dairy plants. तो मेरे पास तो 400 डीसी है. इंडिया की सबसे बड़ी ई कॉम कंपनी के पास 40-50 होंगे. तो मैं हर कस्टमर से 250 किलोमीटर ही दूर हूँ. So technically I'll be able to service every single pin code, every single customer closest to it at a very low cost, using the technology which is available and creating a portfolio. And on my shop.amul, I don't just sell protein. All my new products, I have more than 100 SKUs of organics to honey to peanut butter. So many things which are not available in every single outlet can be sold through my shop.amul portal, which is D2C. Next level we can play is direct to retailer. So the technology part which I was telling is every single distributor sells every single Amul product on a common software. So sitting here right now, I know exactly how many outlets yesterday bought 100 gram pack of Amul butter, because it's all on the common software. तो उस पे पूरे बिलिंग होता है, ट्रांजेक्शन होता है, and पूरे सप्लाई चेन उस पे चलती है. The same retailer has been given an app which is called Amul Cart, where retailer can directly place an order. उसको इन्वेंट्री दिखती है डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर की, उसको इन्वेंट्री दिखती है ब्रांचेस की. तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के पास जो प्रोडक्ट नहीं है पर ब्रांच को पता है कि ये जगह से ये ऑर्डर आया है, तो हम डायरेक्टली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के थ्रू उसको आज सर्विस करते हैं. कल सुबह वी कैन ऑल्सो टू गो डायरेक्ट टू रिटेलर, क्योंकि मेरे पास वेयर हाउस इज ई-कॉम एनेबल्ड, डिलीवरी सप्लाई चेन है, सप्लाई चेन पार्टनर है, तो आई कैन डू D2R ऑल्सो. एंड देन कम्स द नेक्स्ट लेवल विच इज अमूल पार्लर एंड डायरेक्ट टू कंज्यूमर. सो आई हैव 20,000 डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स, I have 10,000 Amul parlors.
Okay.
So these are my points which have my maximum assortment of SKUs. 400 से 500 SKU, fresh product के, ice cream के, dairy products के सब available. So all you need to do is again e-com enabled. Today you are sitting here and you place an order on my app. I can show you which of the outlets within 10 kilometers vicinity of wherever we are will have which Amul product. Now, all the Insta 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute delivery companies in India have maximum 600, 700 what they call dark stores. I have got 20,000 plus 10,000 visible stores or light, bright stores or illuminated stores, whatever you want to give. But these are all businesses in progress. All need is an e-com enabling. Now, being online and e-com is not new to us. Let me tell you, we were among the first ones in India to set up what we used to call cyber store. 1998 में हमने देश के 200 शहर में अमूल के प्रोडक्ट्स आपके घर पे बैठे ऑनलाइन ऑर्डर करो, होम डिलीवरी करो, ऐसा सिस्टम बनाया था. और 15 साल चलाया भी. ना तो तब मोबाइल फ़ोन था, फॉरगेट मोबाइल फ़ोन, इंटरनेट भी नहीं था, पेमेंट का कोई सिस्टम नहीं था, फिर भी होम डिलीवरी में, जैसे आज आपके जोमेटो आपके घर आके होम डिलीवरी करता है, उसी तरह हम आइसक्रीम भी होम डिलीवरी करते थे, दूध भी करते थे, मक्खन चीज़ भी करते थे.
Very interesting. So, can we list down each of the most popular milk products and see what their gross margins look like, so that if at all somebody is trying to find an opportunity, they should know that this is the portfolio, and if they have to pursue this portfolio, they need to know what are the margins like. So, sir, can we list down from milk to dahi to buttermilk कि मार्जिन्स क्या हो सकते हैं? मैं एक एक करके प्रोडक्ट का नाम लेता हूँ, मुझे बताओ सर मार्जिन्स क्या हो सकते हैं?
देखिए, मैंने अगेन बोल रहा हूँ,
हाँ.
अगर आपको एक प्रोडक्ट का मार्जिन मैं आपको 25% बोल दूँ,
हाँ.
और दूसरे का 5% बोल दूँ, अकेला 25 कभी आपको मिलेगा नहीं.
ओके.
बिकॉज आपने एक कंपोनेंट हैंडल किया, तो बाकी का आप क्या करोगे? आर्ग्यूमेंट से आज की तारीख में आप वाइट बटर खरीदोगे 350-400 रुपये किलो, 80% फैट होता है, उसको आपने कन्वर्ट कर दिया, अगेन वापस आए, तो आपके पास कॉस्ट ऑफ लीटर ऑफ घी, लीटर बोल रहा हूँ, केजी नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, केजी ज़्यादा होगा 10% उससे, मानो 450 रुपये. आप बोलोगे मैं 500 रुपये में बेचूंगा, क्यों? मार्केट में 550 रुपये में घी बिकता है अमूल का या XYZ ब्रांड का. आपको लगेगा कि अब मैं 400 में खरीदा, 450 में बेचा, 10% मार्जिन निकला, 12% मार्जिन, 15% मार्जिन. पर वो आज अच्छा लगेगा, कल सुबह अगर पाउडर के प्राइसेस कम हो गए या दूध के प्राइसेस बढ़ गए, तो ये 400 रुपये की चीज़ आपने 350 में वाइट बटर खरीदा, आपको 400 में खरीदना पड़ेगा, 450 में खरीदना पड़ेगा, और कोई एश्योरेंस नहीं है आपके पास. तो आज जो अच्छा लगता है वो शायद कल ना हो. ओके, कभी वो प्राइस 300 भी हो जाए तो आपको लगेगा मेरे पास विंडफॉल हो गया. बट कोई ने सिंगल प्रोडक्ट पे आज तक वर्ल्ड में एक ही चीज़, यानी घी या पाउडर, सिर्फ घी या सिर्फ पाउडर या चीज़ या सिर्फ योगर्ट या सिर्फ आइसक्रीम पे कोई कंपनी सक्सेसफुल नहीं होगा. सो पोर्टफोलियो अप्रोच इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड वी ऑल्सो डोंट कैरीड अवे बाय एक्सेप्शनल मार्जिन इन एनी ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट्स.
Got it.
Because end of the day, what the farmer looks at is the price of milk, what the consumer looks at is the quality of the product, and brands like us, we don't leverage our monopolistic position. आज मक्खन में मेरा 80% मार्केट शेयर है, स्टिल माई प्राइस ऑफ बटर इज वेरी वेरी इकोनॉमिकल फॉर ए सिंपल रीजन. अच्छा, उसमें भी हमारा वेस्टेड इंटरेस्ट है, क्या है कि मुझे मार्केट ग्रो करना है. आज 100 में से सिर्फ 20 लोग ही मक्खन खाते हैं, ठीक है, तो 5 गुना मार्केट अपॉर्चुनिटी है. तो हमारे हाथ में अगर वो मार्केट शेयर, आज मेरे 80% मार्केट शेयर पोजीशन लिवरेज किया और 60 रुपये का बटर मैं 80 में बेचा, बिकेगा? ऐसा नहीं बिकेगा, क्योंकि देयर इज अ सेगमेंट विच हैज़ टू बाय, एंड वी आर द लार्जेस्ट ब्रांड ऑफ बटर. बट फ्यूचर बिकम्स वेरी
Got it. So, sir, if I have to build a milk brand, I have to start with a portfolio of products by default. Because if I do not start with a portfolio of products, then there are 3 disadvantages that will have. Number 1 is the scale. Because if I'm shipping a packet of milk, I will only ship a packet of milk. But if I'm doing a portfolio of products, then I can ship milk, butter, ghee, all of it in the same truck, eventually giving me decreased shipping cost. Number 2 is that if I only do milk and somebody else does milk, ghee, butter and every other thing, they'll have extended margins as compared to me. And thirdly, the control over raw material goes down drastically if I do only cheese or butter and I do not do milk. And like you said, हर साल अगर एक अमूल पैदा हो रहा है, that's a huge opportunity for milk. So you're saying that immediately start with milk, and the moment you start with milk, also pursue a portfolio of products. Sir, Amul is now entering 2 revolutions together. One is a protein revolution and the other is D2C revolution. And like you mentioned, you don't sell your protein products on Amazon, you sell them exclusively in your own website through your own portal. And the second is the protein revolution. And Amul is also entering this market, especially when there is a trust deficit in the protein market, especially because of the recent report, which mentioned that most of the proteins in the market are absolute crap and they don't meet the standards. And let alone being good for the health of the consumer, it is actually bad for the consumer. So, sir, firstly, since you have now entered into this space, especially to solve this trust deficit, what exactly is wrong with the protein market of India?
Let's first look at the opportunity which this market offers to us. And people have started looking at the macros very clearly. Okay, you look at fat, you look at protein, you look at carbs, and you look at what's good for you. And as I mentioned earlier, each one of us needs to consume 1 gram of protein per kg of body weight every day. It is not just for the gym goers. It is for everyone, from a child to an adolescent, to a working woman or a teenager, to a senior citizen. We all need it because protein is the ultimate building block.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is where we need to consume good quality protein. Now, protein comes in multiple forms. What is also now being recognized that the BCAA, what is the biological availability of amino acids in protein, in dairy or milk protein or whey protein is the highest. Okay. So you look at credible source, of a good quality whey protein, and this would make a part of your daily habits to make up the protein gap that you have. It's not necessarily, I mean, you get protein in many of the foods that we eat, including the milk that we drink. So rest of the thing is a question of calibrating what you require and how you're going to get it. Most of the whey protein in India today is imported. And it is not imported as it is in form of the consumer pack. It is imported in bulk, and there are companies who do the job of mixing it with multiple ingredients and delivering it to the customers in the best possible form. It's good that somebody did the effort of creating a market for protein in India, and we give credit to all these brands. But simultaneously, and what you asked, what one should look at. So if a brand is promising something which is mentioned on the pack declaration, which is again registered under the food safety standards, it's every brand's responsibility to give what it is promising to the customers. And that's a very simple way and ethical way of doing business. But research and reports say that it's not true usually, and there is a rampant case of substandard material available in the market. We will not say what is the different levels of this because there's not a platform to do so. But at times consumers would have felt shortchanged. They did not give what they paid for. There's also a market of spurious products, and that is an easy market because protein is a very expensive product. Good quality protein again is a thing. If a ready-made consumer pack is available, sealed in their plant at a factory somewhere, you would at least know how that happened and who is responsible for it. But if somebody is repacking it and sometimes not an official product also, that means our customers are taken for a ride. And that's where causes the trust deficit. But once we realize that protein is good for us, we need to find a way to do it. Now, as I mentioned, we realize that this is an opportunity for Amul, not just for the market side of it, but also the sourcing side of it. And as the largest manufacturer of cheese and paneer in the country, you get a lot of whey. And that way, if you are able to use technology to extract the protein and do it multiple times, so 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, what I just mentioned, then you have a winner on hands. You have the best quality raw material, you have the best processing technology, you have a production and a product capability where you can sell a protein, high protein ice cream, to a high protein shake, to a high protein milk, to a high protein dahi, to a high protein paneer, to even high protein paneer parathas. A day will come when we will
high
have
protein
this,
parathas?
Yes, a day will come. We are working on such kind of products, high protein kulchas, high protein parathas, so that, and high protein even paneer bhurji for that matter. So what you do is and the lassis and the buttermilks are also there. So aapke, and chocolates and cookies are obviously a logical extension. So basically आप जो दिन में अपना नॉर्मल जो खाने का टाइम है और उस टाइम पे जो खाना खाते हैं उसको अगर हाई प्रोटीन कर दिया हमने, तो then you don't need to have an additional supplement or protein in form of an extra supplement. It is protein in form of food, which makes everybody do the maths very easy. आप 60 ग्राम का कर पाओगे, मैं 80 ग्राम का प्रोटीन का कैलकुलेशन कर पाऊंगा, कोई 50 ग्राम का कर पाएगा, कोई 1 किलो का कर पाएगा. And again, tasty way में affordable protein, but of the highest quality. So this is what the promise the brand wants to bring in on the table. Resource is not a constraint. Technology is not a constraint. Product mix is not a constraint. Market के लिए, as I mentioned, direct to consumer is currently the way forward which we are seeing, because we have the entire control on the supply chain. We have a warehouse and distribution network across the country. Knowing a customer is always better because you are able to handle the consumer, his requirements, listen to his voice, monitor the entire supply chain, ensure freshness in the entire supply chain, and also at MRP sell the product. And my MRPs are much, much lesser than the normal protein available in the market. So this is where it happens, and you are not mercy at the third parties. It's not that we don't have working relationship with all the QCom and EComs in the country. Amul is the largest selling brand for each one of them, and we do enjoy a very good relationship with them. But as we ramp up our supply chain, understand the customers, add more products and try out more products with the customer, we will soon go mainstream, as in Amul retail outlets will start stocking protein products very soon. Modern trade will start stocking paneer very soon. You will also get it on QCom, ECom sites. But at the moment, we want to leverage our own strength of direct to consumer, build a shop.amul.com channel, and for the D2C part, for the D2R part, and QCom part also, sooner or later, to be a brand which is in direct touch with its consumers.
Got it. Amul is one of the first brands to launch high protein lassi, high protein buttermilk. high protein milk, and so many other things. Sir, my question is, why didn't any other brand do this before? Because, like you mentioned, if protein is consumed in the form of the foods that we anyways consume, it is pretty easy and the market doesn't have to be created, it is already existing. It's just that now, instead of buying a pack of dahi, people will buy a pack of high protein dahi. Like, it's so intuitive. But Amul ye kar paya, but koi aur brand ye nahi kar paya. Why, sir?
It's difficult for me to comment on any other's brand strategy, but I mentioned this entire genesis of how we walked in, thought about this, how much time it took for us to execute it, to crack the right process of converting the raw material that we have. And let's face it, not many of we don't have many large brands of the cheeses and paneer in the country. Many of them are there, but they are small and scattered. Okay, and then it requires a lot of vision and also the technical competence to handle this liquid way and convert into variety of products.
So now Amul is also getting into organic farming. Before that, sir, I just want to cover one more aspect. You also mentioned Amul Parlors. And I want to understand the economics behind buying an Amul franchisee, sir. If I have to buy an Amul franchisee, how much do I have to invest and how much return can I expect out of it?
This is a very good question because most companies charge their franchisees for the turnover they do for the brand. We do exactly the opposite.
Okay.
We will pay you extra margins at the end of every month for the business that you do with us.
Can you explain this with an example, sir?
Yes. So the brand deposit we take is say 25,000-30,000 rupees.
That's it.
That's it. And if you have a shop, you can be an Amul franchisee tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning?
Yes. And the brand deposit we take is not taken for the sake of it. It's a refundable deposit. But we would invest into giving the signage and rest of the things. We will tie you up with the vendors who will give you the, say, deep freezers and visi coolers and the rest of the stuff at a very low cost as compared to the market. We will help you do the shop, launch the shop, and provide you range of 300, 400, 500 SKUs of Amul products, milk supplied every day, twice a day, to butter cheese supplied 2 to 3 times a week, to ice cream supplied 2 to 3 times a week. And on top of it, whatever revenue you generate and whatever business transaction we do with us, end of every month, 1.5%, 2%, 3% will be credited to your bank account directly.
So I don't need to have any working capital?
No, it's your money which you rotate. The distributors of Amul will supply to you. And let me tell you another fun fact. The listed retailer in the country, the largest one, does a business of roughly 30,000 rupees per square feet of the area they operate in. They have 250-300 stores, a very large listed company.
Is it DMart, sir?
Yeah. Okay. We have stores which do a business of more than 3 lakh rupees per square feet.
What?
Yeah. So if you do a turnover of 30,000-40,000 rupees a day, which my average parlor would do in an area of 150 to 200 square feet, you can do the maths. And you can do multiple times business in a small shop with a very high rotation and a velocity, because starting from milk at 6 in the morning to ice cream till midnight, you will have a steady footfall of customers. And a product portfolio which is pretty big, new products continuously coming in, parlors being treated as launch pads. The reason is very simple. I will have to compete with multiple brands of products when I'm talking to a general trade or a retailer or modern trade. These are all dedicated parlors. And obviously without competition, I'm able to launch new products. Consumers also come with a predefined mindset कि okay, Amul ने किया है, Amul का है तो अच्छा ही है. Parlor gets ready business. And all the servicing is done. And on top of it, you get extra margin. And the day
What is this extra margin, sir?
Extra margin, we have to pay for your loyalty.
Okay.
As a shopkeeper, you have decided to not handle any other product. You are loyal to me as an Amul franchisee. You have the Amul brand. And you are involved into my business. And for me, the cost of doing business with you is slightly less than rest of the stuff. We compensate our parlors with extra margin.
Got it.
And that is credited to your bank account.
Interesting.
So a assured business, 365 days, be it COVID, be it flood, be it cyclone, the Amul supply chain will work uninterrupted. Amul parlors will be allowed to be open irrespective of there is a riot in the country or that area or there is a COVID lockdown. So the assured business is there, assured supply chain is there, and of course consumer loyalty is also there.
Got it.
So that's how we have 10,000 Amul parlors. The family is growing. We have a wide range of product categories also. Parlors specific to certain products also, like ice cream parlors, of which 2,000 are dedicated ice cream parlors, which are again high value, high margin items where you sell an assortment of ice creams and shakes and different kind of stuff. To a premium ice lounge also, where we sell the best flavor of every country of the world. And multiple locations. You have railway stations, you have bus stops, you have high streets, you have regular markets, you have complexes, multiplex, mandirs, temple complexes, office complexes, infocity types of areas and complexes. So wherever you have a space, you will have a market.
So, sir, do you help the franchisee in scouting for a good location to set up the franchisee?
Both ways. The franchisee also comes with a location. We also have a requirement.
Okay.
So every local team is in constant touch with all the people who are interested in that kind of business. Many times we reach out to the market, showing our expression of interest for Amul parlors in different places where we know the market is underserviced and we need to strengthen our presence. So it's a two-way street.
Okay. So is it done through your website?
Yeah, website, social media also, print ads also, multiple forms.
Got it. So if I have to apply for an Amul franchisee, I can just go to
Just
your
go
website.
to amul.com, and in the parlor section, you just log in your inquiry. We have a dedicated call center for getting such inquiries, and somebody will reach out to you and close the business. And as I can say, instantly. I mean, it takes very little time to get on board with Amul.
Perfect. Sir, I'll just ask you a few numbers, and this could be completely subjective based on the location. So if I have to open up a 150 to 200 square feet Amul franchisee, what is the approximate investment that I would require?
Maximum 1.5 lakh rupees.
Maximum 1.5 lakh. This is exclusive of the rent?
Rent of the shop.
Okay.
And you to spend little bit on interiors.
Okay.
Basically, the signage will be done by us. You have to do the racking systems because you have to keep 200, 300 SKUs. You have to buy a VC cooler. You have to buy a deep freezer. So depending upon this market opportunity, we'll tell you whether one milk cooler is okay or bottle cooler is okay. One VC cooler is okay or two you require to. One deep freezer is okay or two you require. But
Okay.
1.5 lakh rupees is an investment you do require.
So 1.5 lakh rupees includes all the coolers and everything?
Yes.
Okay. And then apart from that, I have to also spend on the interior. What is the approximate cost for a 150-200 square feet?
ये मैं
interior?
बोल रहा हूँ ना, आपका 1.5-2 लाख में सब हो जाएगा.
सब कुछ?
सब हो जाएगा. And we have ready-made templates available to do this. And again, and if you have a shop, it's all the more good. Otherwise, you have to find a place which is rental is reasonable, but the returns are definitely there, and that's why we have such a large number of franchisee partners working with us.
Got it.
And growing their business.
Got it. So the next question that I have is about the supply chain of the franchisee. So I was just speaking to Vedant Modi, who's the son of the founder of Manyavar, and he told me something very interesting. Manyavar has only 3% dead stock. Only 3% goes to waste, and the reason why the wastage is so less is because they are able to predict the demand of a kurta pin code by pin code even before the kurta gets sold. So they know exactly which size to send, which design to send, which color to send, and when to send it, even before the store understands that the sales could spike. That way they avoid two things. One is they avoid human errors, and number two is they also avoid lack of availability simply because it is dependent on the store manager. So the store manager doesn't have to keep track of supply and demand. They can just do it simply through their data analytics software. So just like this, when it comes to my products, because milk is such a vast portfolio, when it comes to ordering milk products, do I have to predict the demand as a store owner, or will Amul tell me by default that these are the SKUs that you need to have and in such quantities, or how does it work, sir?
It is two ways. Because as I mentioned, demand keeps changing depending upon different factors which we just discussed. But typically a shop owner, the first initial handholding has to be done by us. For next 1 to 2 months, we'll have to tell कि इतना ही दूध लो, इतना बेचो, इतना रखो, and see the momentum, and then based on that keep ordering.
Okay.
It's not that milk is ever going to get out of stock. So आज अगर सुबह उसने 2 crate लिया और 20 पाउच बिक गए, 40 पाउच बिक गए, तो दोपहर को भी सप्लाई आने वाली है, तो आप यू कैन एक्स्ट्रा स्टॉक अप कर सकते हो. ठीक है. एंड सिमिलरली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर इज हाफ ए किलोमीटर टू 1 किलोमीटर 2 किलोमीटर अवे. तो अगर उसने 10 पीस बटर रखा था और somebody मिठाई फॉर इंस्टेंस टिपिकली हैपन्स ड्यूरिंग फेस्टिव टाइम्स कि उसने सोचा 10 बॉक्स काजू कतरी आज के लिए ठीक है, और सडनली आप जैसे लोग गए और बोले मेरे को एक साथ 8 दे दो या 12 दे दो, तो you will run short. But then there is always supply chain which is backing up.
10-minute delivery to the retailer.
To the retailer also, because that's how distributors typically operate in our country.
Okay. So the risk of supply is completely
is taken care of. So it's not an issue now. And अच्छा दूसरा, you are continuously linked with 3 of my distributors: the ice cream distributor, the dairy product distributor, and the milk distributor.
Just a second, sir. Ice cream distributor, dairy distributor,
and the fresh product distributor, the milk distributor.
Okay.
तो वो आप तीनों से जुड़े हो, कॉमन सॉफ्टवेयर पे हो, सबके सिस्टम से आपका बिलिंग होता है, तो आपको एक्स्ट्रा मार्जिन का भी कैलकुलेशन अपने आप होता है, एक्स्ट्रा मनी भी रिफंड जमा आपके अकाउंट में होता है, और कंपनी जो भी इंसेंटिव देती है, जो भी प्रोडक्ट रिलेटेड स्कीम देती है, आपको उस बिल के साथ आपको मिल जाता है.
Got it.
Okay, so that part is taken care of, and again so many SKUs. I mean, every branch, as I mentioned, we have say 650 dry and ambient SKUs. Every branch will typically have 400 of that. Distributor have more than 300 of that, and a good shop. And I can show you shops in Delhi which have 300 to 350 Amul SKUs in an area of 200 square feet.
In an area of 200 square feet?
Yes.
That is incredible, sir.
Yes. That exactly, because that's how we've been able to see that the pipeline and of the highways eventually leading to funneling to a parlor are able to be created. तो हमारा भी फायदा ये है, नॉर्मल शॉपकीपर 50, 60, 80 आउटलेट्स SKUs रखेगा. इतना पूरा असॉर्टमेंट आपको बेचना है, तो अमूल पार्लर इज द बेस्ट वे टू गो.
Amul Parlor. So what is the difference between an Amul store and an Amul Parlor?
नहीं, अमूल पार्लर ऐसा भी इट्स normal shopkeeper. I'm comparing the both.
Okay, Amul Parlor is exclusive.
Any, say I'm talking of say Ramdev Kirana store which is say right below you, to an Amul Parlor which is say close to you. This is 50 SKUs, this is 300 SKUs.
Got it.
And then obviously it's an Amul brand signage identity, and a customer for Amul will say that this is my first destination to go.
Got it.
So this is the mom and pop business in India. The general trade is never going to go out of fashion irrespective of whatever people say, because you need to be shopping in the vicinity of where you are. Companies are tuned to supply to, like I said, 1 million outlets directly serviced across the country. Such a large number of distributors working at very thin margins but very high efficiencies. Shopkeepers getting the facility of delivery of stocks right at their doorstep. Order taking by the salesmen of the multiple companies at their doorstep. Multiple options available for them to order also. So, and again, we have large number of people depending upon retailing for their livelihood. And companies like us and a million outlets across the country would be a very, very thing. I will also tell a fun fact here, that when FDI and retail was to come in India, Amul was the only organization which said very clearly that we don't need FDI in retail because it's not good for the farmers, it's not good also for the consumers.
Okay.
So the 2/3 share of the consumers through P-Logic and 1/3 in globally was presented in the parliament by the current ruling party, was in opposition in 2012-13. And there was a big debate in the parliament. The stats which I just mentioned were quoted there. Then the government had to rethink. And we said that there is enough of capital in India to set up modern retail. And you don't need the foreign capital and foreign brands to come in. Because end of the day, what they do is create their own store brands.
Sir, can you just give me an example?
That's why,
I understand what
that's why we, in anticipation of that threat, we actually got into this parlor space. There was no reason for doing that.
Sir, इसको ना एक example के समझा दो. Sir, I understood what you just told me.
So you are a foreign brand of a retailer. Okay. You can call it Metro Cash and Carry क्योंकि वो अभी देश से चला गया है. You can call it Carrefour, वो भी अभी देश से बाहर चला गया है.
Metro Cash and Carry लेते हैं.
ठीक है. तो अभी देसी ब्रांड बन गया है. ठीक है. But assume these are big box foreign retailers. Okay. They set up shops and you know how they work. They would dominate the entire market, know every single customer. They can undercut, do deep discounting and build a market for themselves. Now, if I go to sell to them as Amul, they will currently buy, but then they will dictate trade terms. As I mentioned, one of the things we do is we never sell on credit. हमारा पूरा माल cash and carry है. They will say, no, we have never bought on cash anywhere in the world. You will have to sell us on credit.
Sir, small nuance. Credit versus cash and carry, वो भी explain कर दो please.
उधारी. आपने माल बेचा और बोलेगा आपको 30 दिन के बाद पैसे देंगे, उसको उधारी कहते हैं.
Credit.
अब मेरी गाय को दूध देने के लिए घास तो पहले खिलाना पड़ेगा. गाय को तो बोल नहीं सकता आज दूध दे दो 30 दिन के बाद पैसे मिलेंगे तो हम घास देंगे. तो अपना धंधा तो रोकड़े पे चलने वाला है. It's logical because cow has to be fed first before you get milk out. Having said that, उधारी हमारे को 1 रुपए की भी नहीं है इतने बड़े बिजनेस में. Okay, which means you are always in business of selling and never wasting time on getting your dues back.
Got it.
But these stores will have a dictated ruling. And I mean, so today if you have a Carrefour India which has say 3,000 stores, they will say, then I go to them to sell. They will say, no, I'll give you order for 30,000 boxes of butter, but you give me 30 days credit. Now the order size is tempting, but सामने payment का recovery window is longer.
Correct.
So that's where you get squeezed in, your margins get squeezed in, and tomorrow one fine day they can say, okay, then they know this much butter is selling. They will do a contract packing and have the X brand of butter in the market.
They will launch their
own brand of butter. So we will be left high and dry. Okay. What happens in the process? The farmer-owned organization, which is people like us, will get squeezed and practically thrown out of business, because this is how big box retailers, and you can name the Walmarts, and I can say them because they are also not very big now in India. This is how they have exploited all the manufacturers.
Got it.
They have volumes, but then they have the ability to squeeze also. So 20 years back, we got into this Parlor model. Then we said that it's okay if these guys come in also. I mean, you can't stop anybody from entering our country and investing into it and do what he wants. But we should have a fallback mechanism of our own parlors, where we can say, okay, Mr. XYZ store, if you don't want to buy our products, it's fine with you. Thank you so much. Good to know you. We will have Amul parlors and customers can come and buy the Amul products, and we will be Atmanirbhar in retailing.
Sir, is that also the reason why you don't sell on Amazon as much as you sell from your own website?
We have been selling on Amazon my chocolates, the dark chocolates and the 99% dark chocolates, ever since launch have been on the bestseller category. But whether we like or not, these guys can squeeze you. There is a case with a company, and I don't want to name it here in public. They blocked our product 15 days before the big season.
Okay.
They said there is one complaint with your product, not telling us what the complaint is, who the customer is or this. But because of that, we are stopping and blocking your thing. Now, it's Amul, and for us, selling chocolate on that platform is not life and death situation. But imagine if you prepared, kept your inventory ready for the peak season, and that company closes your channel.
15 days before it?
Yes. And we had to fight for a month to understand. Then they said, no, it's nothing like that. It was not a big thing. Let's get on to our business.
So did they launch their own product?
No, they have not launched because it's not too difficult. It's too difficult to launch a product at my price, my quality and my standards and my supply chain as well. But this is what is a reality. And I am on record, I can tell with confidence that these are all glorified courier companies.
Glorified?
Glorified courier companies.
Courier companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
They know customers. They have an insight into it. They're very sharp in mining it. Okay. But end of the day, it is to their benefit and never at the benefit of the seller.
Got it.
And the seller is always at the risk of their own brand coming into it. It's okay. Amul is on this side, so it's okay to withstand. As I mentioned, we have to be in Atmanirbhar in retail, Atmanirbhar in direct to consumer space. But we should know what good things they bring on the table. We should also know what are the pitfalls.
Got it.
And this is what every entrepreneur also should be very clear, that what looks rosy and tempting can also be a thing which will
Dangerous.
hurt them.
Understood, sir. Sir, now I want to go back to the franchise thing that you just mentioned. With an Amul store, the franchise owner could expect a turnover of 30,000 rupees per day, which accounts to 9 lakh rupees per month. So, sir, out of this 9 lakh rupees, what are the margins that the franchise owner can expect?
It is in proportion of the products that you sell. Assume 50% fresh products ही आपका बिकता है.
Okay.
तो उसमें 5 से 8% मार्जिन होगा. आपके बटर चीज़ होगा वो 20-25% मार्जिन होगा. 20-25% हिस्सा होगा आपके टर्नओवर का. तो उसमें आपको 8 से 10% मार्जिन मिलेगा. और आइसक्रीम है उसमें 15 से 20% मार्जिन मिलेगा. सो इट्स अ सेफ मिक्स ऑफ एटलीस्ट एवरेज ऑफ 10% मार्जिन दैट यू कैन गेट. एंड after taking care of the cost of basically the rentals, and then you get extra also as a form of the extra margin we pay as a part of the loyalty association that we have, you can make a decent sum of 50,000-70,000 rupees.
Got it. With an investment of just 1.5 lakh rupees,
yes,
you can expect to make 50,000 to 70,000 rupees per month. This is incredible, sir. And this also will have extra margins as you do more revenue.
Yeah.
Got it. Understood, sir. Sir, I want to come back to this capitalism versus corporate revolution. So you mentioned that when it comes to big retailers, if foreign retailers come to India, they have the power to give you great scale. At the same time, once you achieve that great scale and they have the data that you can sell, let's say 50,000 boxes of butter, they can launch their own butter product and they can just cut you off. And you just mentioned an example of an e-commerce player just cutting you off 15 days before the big season. Sir, and this is what brings me to another ideology that Amul stands by. I think you said this on record that Amul will never go IPO. Why is that, sir?
It's basically contradictory to our business model.
Can you explain how, sir?
What do you look at when you are investing somewhere?
The stock prices to go
Prices. What are the prices dependent on?
up. Profits.
Okay, so there's a multiplier effect into profit, and that's what you calculate the multiples, and based on that the the market gives a value to the stock. Okay, तो 10 रुपए की चीज उसका प्रॉफिट इतना है तो उतना 30 मल्टीपल 50 मल्टीपल पे एक प्राइस होगा which the market thinks is a good price for this category, comparing with benchmarks, peers, and so on and so forth, and this arrives at a price. Okay, how do we measure our performance? Our performance is measured on the price we pay to the farmer. Because Malik hai hamare, as I mentioned. So you have to pay the highest price to them. And they measure you based on the value you add and the returns you give to them. Okay, simple. अब हम मार्केट में गए, for instance. आप एज एन इन्वेस्टर को प्रॉफिट चाहिए. प्रॉफिट मैं कैसे ला सकता हूँ? आइदर मेरा रॉ मटेरियल सस्ता कर दूँ या मेरे भाव बढ़ा दूँ. तो क्या होगा? रॉ मटेरियल सस्ता किया तो यह तो मालिक, असली मालिक तो किसान है, वो मारेगा. भाव बढ़ा दिया तो कंज्यूमर बोलेगा साला ये तो कोई मतलब ही नहीं है और आप मेरे वही चीज़ का एक्स्ट्रा पैसे ले रहे हो, जस्ट प्रॉफिट दिखाना है आपको. अच्छा, कुछ भी नहीं किया तो मल्टीपल्स नहीं मिलेंगे, तो आज की जैसी हालत है वैसी रहेगी. दोनों किए तो दोनों तरफ से कटेंगे. तो ये कभी भी लॉजिक बैठेगा ही नहीं, बिकॉज आवर वॉट वी डू इज़ नॉट वॉट एनी बिजनेस स्कूल टीचर्स यू टू डू. So it's always an inherently contradictory logic. And for a brand, as I mentioned, जो हमको चारों हाथों को साथ में रखना है और खास करके दोनों पहलू प्रोड्यूसर और कंज्यूमर को रखना है, तो ये इम्पॉसिबल होगा. And then that's not a game you want to play, because end of the day, what is your objective? Is to serve the country and for the benefit of a large number of people. इंडिया की सबसे लार्जेस्ट रिटेल कंपनी है, उसके एज पर द पब्लिक डेटा नोन, आई मीन इंडिविजुअल रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स आर 31 लाख. Okay, so largest listed company in India is 31 lakh individual investors, retail investors. I have got 36 lakh farmers who have invested into 10 rupee share of Amul and they are owners of the Amul. ठीक है, तो we have to worry about the larger mass because for them it's livelihood. Investor के पास तो पैसे हैं जो उसने कहीं पे लगाए हैं, उसका एक्स्ट्रा मनी है, बट हमारे लिए तो इन लोगों की रोजगारी है, उनकी लाइवलीहुड है, उनकी आय है, उनके फैमिली निर्भर करता है इस चीज़ पे.
Got it.
तो एंड एज ए मॉडल ऑल्सो वी डोंट नीड टू, आई मीन व्हाई डू वी वांट टू गो इन द मार्केट? आप मार्केट में क्यों जाते हैं? कोई कंपनी, हमको पैसे चाहिए नहीं, हमारे पास इंटरनल स्ट्रेंथ है. हम मार्केट में भी हम कहीं से भी बोरो करें, लोन्स लेंगे या इंटरेस्ट भर के करेंगे, वी हैव द कैपेबिलिटी टू पे. देयर आर सेवरल फंड्स एंड स्कीम्स अवेलेबल ऑल्सो विच सपोर्ट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट इन द कंट्री. Okay, if you want to expand into ice creams, all this, and there is a PLI scheme of the government also, not just for Amul, but for every single business in the country. So that is where we don't need, so to say, capital for growth. But let me tell you also, we are this India में अगर कोई भी फूड में इन्वेस्ट करता है तो वी आर द लार्जेस्ट. लास्ट ईयर जो वर्ल्ड फूड इंडिया हुआ था उसमें देश की सभी फूड एंड FMCG कंपनी से कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट प्लेज किया था. तो टोटल 33,000 करोड़ का इन्वेस्टमेंट प्लेज हुआ था लास्ट ईयर. अमूल कमिटेड and signed MOUs worth 11,500 crores. So 1/3 of the total investment in food in India is done by single largest brand Amul. और उसका 2/3 हमने इस साल, ये दूसरा वर्ल्ड फूड इंडिया हो उसके पहले स्पेंड करके एसेट्स भी खड़े कर दिए, so that we are ready, as I mentioned, to grow the market. So that way, I mean, we don't need money from outside. What we need is the trust of the consumer. What we need is the trust of the producer. And we have said this earlier also, that our currency is not milk. Our currency is trust. And trust of the producer, trust of the consumer. And if we have this both important things with us, then the brand can grow to any size and scale.
So you're saying that you're cash rich, your investors are not investors, they're actually farmers, and you believe in farmer value and not investor value, which means sometimes you might have to squeeze into your profits just to give more value to the farmers, which goes completely opposite to what a typical public listed company would do. Understood, sir. Sir, I also found another interesting stat which says that HUL invests about 10% of its revenue into marketing. And you invest not 5, not 3, but 1% of your revenue into marketing.
It's actually less than 1%.
Sir, how is this even possible that you're spending so less and yet you're growing so fast?
So we have two inherent advantages. A, single brand, common brand, Amul. B, a legacy. And certain consistency in communication that we have built in is helping us leverage and get more with very less spends.
Got it. Sir, I understood both one brand and legacy. Can you please help me understand what is so special about Amul's communication strategy?
Yeah. So communications is way to connect with the consumer in the right context with consistency and as low a cost as possible.
Context, consistency, cost.
Cost. Okay. Now these are the sweet spot in between is very difficult to get. क्योंकि आपको ये context होगा तो consistency नहीं होगी, consistency होगी तो cost नहीं होगा और आप कहीं ना कहीं उसको वो करोगे.
सर एक एग्जांपल दो ना इसका.
अभी सिंपल सी चीज है. अमूल टॉपिकल एडवर्टाइजिंग कैंपेन. अमूल गर्ल छोटी सी लड़की है. 1965 से लेके 2025 हो गया. यू कैन कैलकुलेट द एज बट डोंट मेंशन इट. सबके लिए वो 6 से 8 साल की है. बट तब से लेके आज तक देश विदेश में जो भी इंसिडेंट्स होते हैं उस पर वो कमेंट देती है. 3 to 4 वर्ड्स, वन सिंपल लाइन इन अ वेरी ह्यूमरस टंग एंड चीकी स्टाइल. एंड if I ask you number of billboards or hoardings where the campaign started, is actually hoarding campaign, world's longest running campaign on hoardings. Guess करो इंडिया में कितने अमूल के होर्डिंग्स होंगे?
10,000 सर.
अब मैं आंसर बताऊं? हाँ, 100.
100?
Yes. So
what do you mean 100, sir?
There are only 100. And the correct number, if my team can tell me and correct me, will say 98 billboards across India which carry the Amul topical every week.
Just 98?
Yes, sir.
Then how do you end up creating such a big buzz?
So this is the power of consistency in communication. It's not just the billboards now because we got into the space of social media.
Got it.
So it is there. So moment it's released, it's on Twitter, it's on Instagram, Facebook. So the reach you can say multiplies several times. We also take it in 35 newspapers every week. And these newspapers have a very good combined circulation.
Got it.
So that way the topical is visible to a large number of people. Your memory is that whenever you are reading it in a newspaper or seeing it on your feed or seeing it on the hoarding, the feeling is that you watch an Amul topical and it is larger than life than the 8 square centimeters it appears.
And people often look for the Amul topical. जैसे जब मैं
so वो feeling वो हमेशा आपके साथ रहती है. Because the topical creative has not changed. The style of messaging has not changed. And if I may quote Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, he says that Amul topical was equivalent to trending before Twitter was invented.
Absolutely.
So if a man of his wisdom can understand and appreciate this, so this is what is a very small piece of creative for anybody. And again, that the agency can release a creative without approval of the client, which is another unique part of it.
Okay.
Any incident happening, the agency makes a point of view and the Buttergirl talks about it as the mood of the nation. It is without the client's approval. So this is where we, and in earlier days there would be one hoarding a month, 2 hoardings a month. Now it's every alternate day there is one creative which largely goes in social media, but it's an Amul commentary on it. And then the way it goes viral, people share with it and all that, the reach is immense. Conversations are immense.
So you are a part of the conversation.
Yes.
And you have one brand. So when Amul brand gets marketed, it's every product in your portfolio that gets benefited. It is topical, which is why it has very high virality. And it is because it's topical and it is Amul the brand which is doing it, which is completely unrelated to what could be happening. That is the reason why you often stay top of the mind, which again creates conversations. As a result, people just tend to exaggerate the presence of Amul across the country, even though you just have 98 billboards.
Yes.
That is incredible. So the secret to Amul's marketing lies in the Buttergirl campaign.
It is one of the major pillars of that communication. Second, we don't change our communication lines.
What do you mean by that, sir?
Utterly butterly delicious has been there since 60s. We've not, it may be grammatically wrong. So we have not corrected it, we have not improved it, we have not changed it. Amul, the taste of India. We coined this in 1994. It's going on. Amul, real milk, real ice cream. The slogan stays with us since we launched the brand in 96. Since 2000, Amul Doodh Pita Hai India. So we keep nourishing the creative, refreshing the creative, but not changing the lines.
Got it.
So this is where the message for the communicators is that times may change, so you upgrade, refresh, but you don't need to change it or reinvent it, because otherwise every brand manager would like to leave his mark on the brand.
Got it.
Okay, but here we are very, very clear that consistency in communication is very important. Okay, you keep changing and upgrading the creatives, in changing consumer, changing product mix, changing times, changing market, changing media. It's all the fine. But you should always stick to the basics, because you have to be in lives of the consumer without being intrusive.
Got it.
Consumer has to be receptive of it and be feeling to talk about it, share it, without even thinking that this is a brand plug they're doing. And which brand in the world would have every single president of every single country, every prime minister of the country, every celebrity appearing on it free of cost? So this is the power of a character.
Because you're a national asset.
Correct. No,
Very
topical
interesting.
also gives a lot of visibility to everything.
Very interesting. So one thing that I'm deeply curious about is, where did the Amul Buttergirl campaign come from? How was the idea born?
So this was a typical challenge they faced, our agency and Amul team faced way back in 1960s.
1960s?
1960s, yes. Budgets were very scarce. And again, how do you advertise a brand of a butter which is Indian butter? Indian name, Amul. 1960s में तो obviously कोई जानता नहीं था. I remember having seen an ad in our guard book. 1958 का कैंपेन था. उसमें पूरा मैसेज दिया था बटर का ये है, एंड नीचे लिखा था आस्क फॉर अमूल बाय नेम. टुडे अमूल इज सिनोनिमस टू बटर, बट उस प्रिंट क्रिएटिव में आस्क फॉर अमूल बाय नेम, उस तरह से हम लोग वी वर अर्जिंग द कस्टमर्स. सो देयर वाज एंड प्रिंट, सी मीडिया वाज नॉट देयर इन द कंट्री, देयर वाज नो टेलीविजन. प्रिंट वाज देयर बट फ्यू एंड फार बिटवीन, वेरी लिमिटेड. एंड हियर द ब्रांड हैड टू क्रिएट अ मार्क फॉर इटसेल्फ बाय being there but not talking about itself.
Okay.
Because consumers were not receptive to it.
Okay. So consumers
then-
were not interested in Amul the salesman.
Amul the salesman and Amul the product, so to say. But we had to still be there because यहाँ तो कोऑपरेटिव बन चुकी थी, दूध ज़्यादा आ रहा था, मक्खन बना रहे थे और सामने आपको मार्केट क्रिएट करना था. So that's where the agency and Mr. Sylvester Dicuna came up with this concept of a moped talking about an event, and easiest and the cheapest medium available was a hoarding or a billboard. Okay, so hand painting था till 90s या early 2000 hand painting था. तो क्रिएटिव आती थी, उसको वो बनते थे, उसको पेंट करते थे. तो फिर सिंपल होना चाहिए. आपको हैंड पेंट करना है तो यू कांट हैव 200 कलर्स और 256 कलर पैलेट एज वी नो. तो सिंपल कलर्स यूज़ करते थे, सिंपल लाइन्स यूज़ करते थे, सिंपल स्केच करते थे, और इट शुड नॉट टेक 1 month टू पेंट ए होर्डिंग विच इज चेंज इन 1 month. सो बहुत ही सिंपल CCC बोलते थे, सेंट्रल कंटिन्यूइंग कैरेक्टर लाके, इस मॉपेट को लाके उन्होंने ये एक इंटरेस्टिंग विटी लाइन्स से एक कैंपेन बनाना शुरू किया. फिर देन दे स्टार्टेड एक्सपांडिंग द ज्योग्राफी एंड सेंडिंग आउट द मटेरियल, गाइड आइडेंटिफाइंग पेंटर्स. और टाइम्स ऐसे चेंज हुआ कि डिजिटल सब कुछ होता गया. सिनेमा के पोस्टर्स पहले हाथ से पेंट होते थे, वो भी डिजिटाइज होते गए. फिर ऑब्वियसली अमूल टॉपिक भी हमने डिजिटाइज किया, और आज एक साथ हम पूरे इंडिया में विद इन फ्यू आवर्स डिजिटल बिलबोर्ड्स भी लगाते हैं, विनाइल प्रिंटेड बिलबोर्ड्स भी लगाते हैं, और उस तरह से ब्रांड को करते हैं. और तब भी उसके बाद सोशल मीडिया भी आ गया, तो वायरलिटी अपने आप हो गई. सो दिस CCC और द सेंट्रल कंट्री, एंड अगेन दिस गर्ल टॉक्स अबाउट द मूड ऑफ द नेशन. शी is happy at times, she is angry at times, she is sad at times, but she is never malicious. वो किसी को हर्ट करने के इंटेंट से कुछ भी नहीं कहेगी. इन्हें ह्यूमरस टंग एंड चीकी स्टाइल से वो अपनी बात रखेगी. एंड द एजेंसी हैज फुल फ्रीडम टू डिजाइन what topic, what to pick up and how to go about doing.
Understood. So Amul, single brand, legacy and communication. That is the core essence of your marketing. That's perhaps the secret sauce of your marketing strategy, which helps you spend 10 times lesser as compared to competing brands and yet achieve more buzz than what they do. Very interesting, sir. Sir, the one question that I had, and you are the epitome of sustainable income for farmers, and the Prime Minister has often insisted that he wants to double the income of farmers, and that will only happen when farmers deploy revolutionary techniques, they increase their efficiency, and more importantly, they should be aware of what's happening in the market. And when entities like yourself exist in this market, now you've just entered organic space and you've also started procuring pulses and other plant products. It's only when entities like yourself exist in the market that farmers can actually make more money. At the same time, the consumers will not have to pay a lot. And here's where the government is actually battling with the MSP debate, whereby the government says that providing MSP is absolutely unviable because if we do that, then either we'll have to procure a lot of our crops, which will result into wastage because we don't have warehouses. Number two is if we provide a fixed price, then there could be a demand-supply mismatch because the farmers could just produce unlimited number of crops, which we will have to procure because they'll be entitled to it. And thirdly, once this happens, then the prices will automatically drop down because the traders will have a lot of supply and no demand at all. So eventually either the government gets crushed in between or the food gets wasted, or because of oversupply, eventually in the long run, the farmers get harmed due to the economics of the entire market. So, sir, how do you think we should tackle this problem and maintain a fine balance? Like I just mentioned, there is capitalism and there is socialism, and you fall exactly in between. And Amul has mastered the art of optimizing for both profits and people. Sir, how would you go about solving this problem of MSP?
There are two dimensions to it. And I'm saying it with that conviction that milk being the largest agricultural crop has demonstrated that you can increase production and still keep paying a good price of milk.
Okay.
So India's milk production was per capita only 100 grams per person at the time of independence. Today it is close to 500 grams per person. And in the matter of last 70 years, the population also gone up 2.5 to 3 times. So production has increased, population has increased, per capita incomes has increased, and prices of other commodities, when the production increases at a rapid pace, the prices will drop. Okay. So you have seen that happening multiple times. Milk is one product. Because of the intervention of the cooperatives and the organized sector through the cooperatives, the producers don't suffer too much of price dropping by 50% in 1 year and shooting up by 50% in 1 year. And same is the case of consumer. You draw the line of inflation of the country and the food prices and the dairy prices, you will see that there is a very, very good balance of both the things, which means you've been able to keep consumers on your side. You've also been able to keep producers on your side. And there is a consistency in the pattern and a predictability in the pattern of milk prices and demand and supply in the country. And you never ever run short of milk. And you take last 20, 30 years, there's never been a situation where we've been dying of milk demand double ho gaya or production aadha ho gaya, which you have seen in many of the agricultural crops and particularly cash crops. So this is where milk and the organized sector of a most perishable agricultural product to the largest agricultural product, दूध की हम बात करें तो वो बन चुका है. Okay. So that is one part. Second, because of this increase or decrease in prices of it and excessive dependence on MSP and actually shift in consumer habits. See, when you give products like rice or wheat, or these are basically the staples which are carb heavy, वो आपका प्रोडक्शन आप जितना बढ़ाते जाओगे और सामने आप पल्सेस इंपोर्ट करोगे, सामने आप ऑयल सीड्स इंपोर्ट करोगे, इट्स यू आर डूइंग अ कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन टू दिस एंटायर थिंग. एंड देन दैट विल एंड अप इन स्टॉक पाइल्स विच विल रॉट, विच विल further deteriorate the financial position of the government at the cost of giving higher incomes to the farmer. So this is where you need to make a shift towards understanding the shift in consumer behavior, inducing a shift in the production of crops, aligning your production and the supplies perhaps with the global demand and opportunity also. Okay. So you need to create I'll talk about the things which are currently not many people know about it, but we as cooperatives are involved into it. Okay. And how do you create a market for a product or an agricultural product which is required globally but not produced locally, or produced locally but only sold locally, and if you have create a market globally? Okay. Very difficult to say, but again I'm telling you with conviction that Amul today is here because we got market access to the city of Bombay. This is why the farmers went on strike in Gujarat, in Anand, to get access to the market of Bombay. And that's how today Amul is a national brand and eventually soon trying to be a global brand. But यही benefit और agriculture products में किसी भी farmer को नहीं मिला है.
Okay. इसका मतलब क्या है सर?
दूध का मार्केट ब्रांडेड फॉर्म में मिला आपको, तो ऑब्वियसली ऑल द बेनिफिट्स कम टू द फार्मर बिकॉज यू कंज्यूमर्स आर ऑन दिस साइड, प्रोड्यूसर्स ऑन दिस साइड. ओके, मार्केट मीन्स यू हैव एन एश्योरेंस एंड विजिबिलिटी कि मेरा इतना माल यहाँ खपेगा, और उस हिसाब से आप बनाओगे और बेचोगे. ओके, बाकी एग्रीकल्चर में फार्मर्स एट द मर्सी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज हु बाय इट. They will supply it wherever it's required. But again, you work season to season, price to price, and you know idea of doing it.
And there is no data collection.
Data is there because if data of what is produced in what land, which part is all there, and what is purchased also data is there.
But not
is also,
processed, no sir?
No, it's not processed. So it's agriculture commodities we are talking about dealing it. Okay, but you to come out of this, then we see two problems or eventually opportunities. A, consumer को जो प्रोडक्ट चाहिए वो राइट प्राइस पे देना है बिकॉज दैट्स व्हाट अदरवाइज क्रिएट्स इन्फ्लेशन. हेडलाइन टमाटर के भाव डबल हो गए तो सरकार गिर जाती है. तो ऐसे सब इश्यूज होते हैं. सो टोमेटो, ओनियन, पोटैटोज आर टॉप ऑफ द माइंड्स विच आर बेसिकली कैश क्रॉप्स एंड वेजिटेबल्स. एंड देन यू हैव द लॉन्ग अदर प्रोडक्ट्स ऑल्सो. अभी once the government realized that there are several problems of the country which a private sector cannot solve or the government cannot solve, they set up a new Ministry of Cooperation at the central level.
Okay.
तो 3 साल पहले केंद्र सरकार में आज़ादी के 75 साल के बाद मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कोऑपरेशन बनी, जिसके मंत्री श्री हैं अवर यूनियन मिनिस्टर ऑफ होम Amit Shah ji, who is also a man of cooperatives. He understood how cooperatives work, but because from the Gujarat experience. And Prime Minister himself is very keen on seeing that the problems of the farmers should be solved on a scale at long term. So having said that, cooperative, though is a state subject, a central ministry of cooperation tried to put things together for cooperatives across the country and with an aim and ambition to see that every farmer or every farmer group should be a member of a cooperative. And how do we then solve many of the problems which you just mentioned?
Okay.
तो पहला प्रॉब्लम था मार्केट एक्सेस का. तो उन्होंने अमूल जो और देश की जो 7-8 बड़ी कोऑपरेटिव्स उनको इकट्ठा किया. अमूल है, इफ्को, क्रिप्को, NCDC, नाफेड, नेशनल कंज्यूमर्स कोऑपरेटिव फेडरेशन. और बिटवीन 7 of us, we have incubated 3 new multi-state cooperatives. First, I'll give you the names and then I'll talk about the role. One is National Cooperative Exports Limited. One is National Cooperative Organics Limited. एंड तीसरा है भारतीय बीज सहकारी संस्था. तो 3 मल्टी स्टेट कोऑपरेटिव बनी. अब पहली बात करते हैं एक्सपोर्ट्स की, जिसमें अमूल, इफ्को, क्रिप्को, नाफेड और NCDC 5 इसके प्रमोटर्स हैं. सरकार का 1 रुपये भी पैसा नहीं लगा है, पर इन 5 कोऑपरेटिव्स ने मिलके ये मैंडेट लिया है कि देश भर में किसी भी फार्मर जो किसी भी कोऑपरेटिव से जुड़ा है उसको पहले मेंबर बनाएंगे उस कोऑपरेटिव को, और उसके प्रोडक्ट्स का हम पूरे विश्व में मार्केटिंग करेंगे.
अच्छा, so just like you market milk.
Yes. So all agricultural products of all cooperatives across the country, we need to find a market. So now draw a parallel. Amul with just 2 villages, market access to Bombay becomes 80,000 crore. Here we are talking of all India. lakhs of farmers, thousands of cooperatives, 8,000 तो ऑलरेडी मेंबर बन चुकी हैं. वो जो प्रोडक्ट है, उनकी जो उपज है, उसका जो मल्टी स्टेट कोऑपरेटिव एक्सपोर्ट्स की है वो विश्व के 180 देशों के बाजार में मार्केट करेगी. सो यू आर क्रिएटिंग अ मार्केट एट स्केल विथ एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हुज कोर जॉब इज टू एक्सपोर्ट एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट्स.
Okay, so
विच इज 2-way स्ट्रीट. लेट मी कंप्लीट.
Okay.
2-way इसीलिए कि हमारी उपज एक्स्ट्रा है, उसको हम वर्ल्ड मार्केट में बेच सकते हैं.
Okay.
दूसरा, वर्ल्ड मार्केट में XYZ चीज की जरूरत है और इंडिया में नहीं बन रही है, तो हम यहाँ के किसानों को बोल सकते हैं कि देखो ये प्रोडक्ट की इस देश में मार्केट है, आप इसको इतनी क्वांटिटी में उपज. सो विच मीन्स यू आर रैशनलाइजिंग द प्रोडक्शन of what is surplus into what is required, demanded, and drawing this balance. And then eventually giving the right of market access to a farmer-centric organization owned by these farmers, and also passing on a share of surplus of what you make. जैसे हम प्राइस के जो प्रॉफिट अर्न करते हैं उसको प्राइस डिफरेंस के फॉर्म में फार्मर्स को वापस देते हैं साल के अंत में. ये मल्टी स्टेट कोऑपरेटिव भी ये करेगी, डिविडेंड भी देगी, प्राइस डिफरेंस भी देगी. एंड यू वोंट बिलीव, 1 साल भी नहीं हुआ है मल्टी स्टेट कोऑपरेटिव को शुरू हुए, हमने, and Amul is the main promoter of that export cooperative, in less than 1 year we have exported more than 15 lakh tons of various commodities, be it rice, be it wheat, sugar, onions, to more than 25 countries, and a turnover of more than 5,000 crore rupees.
What are you saying, sir?
Yeah, and the order book is also of another 5,000 crore rupees. तो imagine आपकी भाषा में, स्टार्टअप की दुनिया में, जिसका $1 बिलियन वैल्यूएशन होता है, वैल्यूएशन उसको आप यूनिकॉर्न कहते हैं, यह तो उतने टर्नओवर के साथ ये नई कोऑपरेटिव पैदा हुई है।
तो सर मैं इसको सिंप्लीफाई करके एग्जाम्पल के समझता हूँ, आप मुझे बताइए कि क्या मेरा अंडरस्टैंडिंग सही है. लेट्स टेक दिस विद एन एग्जाम्पल. Amul will soon enough. In fact, Amul has already started procuring products like rice and wheat, and Amul has started distributing this across the world wherever there is very high demand by doing heavy duty research. And just like that, tomorrow, if there is a demand for a particular type of dal, Amul will come back to India, tell its farmers that, see, there is going to be very high demand for dal. You grow dal and we will sell it for you, just like you sell milk across the country. So just like you built an 80,000 crore empire by selling milk and milk products, you've already built a 5,000 crore empire by selling 15 lakh tons of goods across 25 countries by following the cooperative model, just like you did for milk.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct. So Amul is not the right word for this business because it's the National Cooperative Export. NCEL is the right word.
And Amul,
Amul is one of the 5 promoters of
Okay,
it.
got it.
But it's the chief promoter. So we've been so far doing that responsibility. But a team of these 5 cooperatives, Amul, IFCO, CRIPCO, NCDC, NAFED, they are on the board and that NCEL is doing this job.
Sir, from what I've understood, what this essentially means is that turning something into a legal right, especially for something as good as something so critical as MSP, makes sense in theory because it will immediately help the farmers. But you're saying that we have to build a more sustainable pricing model so that we can marry demand and supply in a very sustainable manner so that we can turn farming into a sustainable profession for the farmers, at the same time not overflood the market with too many crops, and look for a demand internationally or domestically so that we can not just procure these crops and waste them using lack of warehouse facilities. We should procure these crops and we should supply them to those areas where the demand is high, where they can get the right price. This could be areas like Middle East and domestically also, so that we can generate a sustainable model so that the government doesn't have to intervene, they don't have to put in their cash, and cooperatives like Amul can actually help them build the supply chain, which you said is already in progress. Does that sum up the answer, sir?
Absolutely.
Sir, thank you so much for your time. It's been 2.5 hours since we've been talking, and I just have acquired a wealth of wisdom from you. And this is a side of Amul that perhaps nobody knows. In fact, I don't think this is out there on the internet, but I've had the privilege to understand this side of the legendary Amul brand. Thank you so much, sir. This means a lot. I'll quickly summarize everything that you've mentioned, and if there's anything that I'm saying wrong or if I'm leaving something incomplete, you can just add to it. What I've understood is that Amul is based on a 3-stage model. One is the village society, district processing unit, and the state union. All of them actually form the foundation of Amul's supply chain. You procure about 310 lakh liters of milk, and you have 107 dairy plants with 20,000 distributors, and this number is so high that no e-commerce player or quick commerce player has as many warehouses as you do, which essentially means that you're building your own world-class supply chain, and you have an Amazon within Amul itself. And then it also says that your moat lies in the fact that you're able to procure raw material at the highest cost, and you're able to sell your finished goods at the lowest cost, which is completely the opposite of what the private players do, because of which you end up passing on maximum benefit to the farmers. At the same time, you end up giving the products to your customers at the lowest cost, which essentially dictates the price in the entire Indian market. And all of this is formed on the basis of efficiency, which is where your supply chain comes into play. And then you spoke about your supply chain, whereby you procure milk from 18,600 villages and 3 million farmers. You do this 2 times a day, morning and evening, and you procure both buffalo milk as well as cow milk. And the entire standardization is done through an electronic system whereby you look for the percentage of fat, which is the quality metric for buffalo milk. And then you look for SNF, which is solids not fat, and the fat percentage for cow milk, which eventually helps you determine the quality of the milk. So your raw material is high quality. On the basis of the quality and quantity that you procure from the farmers, you pay the farmers, and this payment is done immediately. So you don't operate on credit, you operate on cash and carry, because अगर मैंने गाय से दूध लिया है तो मेरे को उसको घास देना पड़ेगा. ऐसा मैं गाय को बोल नहीं सकता कि आप मुझे अभी दूध दे दो, मैं आपको 1 महीने बाद घास दूंगा. This payment happens on 11th, 21st and the end of the month, 3 times a month, which essentially gives farmers enough cash flow to be able to sustain their livelihood. And this is again completely opposite of what the big giants do in foreign countries, whereby they extract maximum margins out of the farmers. They keep the capital with themselves, which eventually creates a cash crunch for the farmers. And you do this not because it makes business sense, but because you are in the business of livelihood and not in the business of milk. Now, if I were to throw light on your supply chain, from the farmers, after the quality check is done, it goes to the bulk milk chiller, and all of these data points are registered on your app, because of which Amul is able to clearly understand how much milk is being procured. And then it goes on to the dairy plant, and then fresh milk actually forms 50% of your business. The rest of it is other products. And then I saw that you have got 4 highways of supply chain. One is the ambient highway, then you have fresh distribution highway, then you've got frozen, and then you've got chilled. And frozen is minus 20 degrees, chilled is 0 to 4 degrees, fresh is your milk. And then when it comes to ambient, it is nothing but products that can be preserved in warehouses and can be sold. Then we have the efficiency, the foundation of your efficiency. It primarily depends on your predictability of demand. And you mentioned a few examples wherein you said that if the temperature goes up, the demand for dahi and buttermilk goes up. So Amul has a data analytics system which is so strong that by looking at the weather and several other factors like festive season, like the month, like the date and the previous data, you can predict the demand for each one of your 50 to 100 odd products in such a way that you can decide what needs to be done with the milk, whether the milk needs to be given out in the market in the form of milk, or it needs to be turned into ice cream or butter or any of the 50 products that you have, which eventually helps you maintain a very large SKU of products. At the same time, it helps you maintain profitability. At the same time, it helps you sustain the livelihood of the farmers. Then you also gave us some wisdom bits on how an entrepreneur is supposed to enter the milk industry. And what you told me is that it would be very stupid to enter with just one product in the market. You have to enter with a portfolio of products, because milk is 85% water, 6% is fat, and 9% is SNF, which forms protein, lactose, your calcium, minerals, and everything else. Which is why it is important that you use your raw material to process it into multiple products such that you have very strong control over raw material. Number 2, once you achieve economies of scale, merely because of the diversity in your portfolio, you'll be able to decrease your shipping cost, which will help you get more margins. And most importantly, when you have multiple products in your portfolio, you're not dependent or over-dependent on just one product. And if the demand falls, it's not like you're going out of business. And then you mentioned that there is a very huge opportunity in the milk business, primarily because today, milk business is a 60,000 crore market. Is that correct, sir?
60 crore liters per
60
day.
crore liter market, and we are adding 5% every year, which essentially comes down to 3 crore liters per year
Per day.
per day, which is essentially the capacity of Amul. So एक Amul हर साल भारत में पैदा हो रहा है. इसका मतलब ये है that the milk market is huge and there is a very big opportunity. And here you mentioned a slight nuance, and there's a tectonic shift in the market in terms of how we are going from unorganized milk to organized milk pre-COVID and post-COVID. Pre-COVID, this growth was 1 to 2%, but now it has doubled to 4 to 5%, which means if you can convince a customer to go from his local doodwala to packed milk, you're essentially tapping onto a huge market opportunity, which is being created as we speak. Then we spoke about what exactly is the entrepreneur supposed to do before they even start selling products. And here you mentioned that it's not just the raw material that you're procuring from the producers, which are your farmers. You also have to take care of other requirements that they might have, whereby you will have to provide them access to veterinary services. You will have to give them access to cattle feed. You will have to then market the products along with providing these things so that you can maintain a consistent demand as well as secure your supply. And here's where the farmer requirement comes in as a very important factor. And while doing so, you will also have to decide which highway do you want to take. Do you want to take the frozen food highway, the chilled food highway, the fresh food highway, or the ambient food highway? And over here, you mentioned that there are 4 primary stakeholders which are essentially embedded into the logo of Amul, which are farmers, experts or processors. Then you have your supply chain managers, and then you have your consumers. You have to cater to all these 4 stakeholders, which Amul mentioned way back in its logo, even before any business school could put it into words. Only then you'll be able to survive in this market. If you don't, then it's a trap. Then we spoke about protein, sir, and you mentioned that the primary gap in the market, or the primary the primary mistake that most protein brands make is that they don't manufacture their own product. They white label products by importing products from abroad, which essentially means that they're not taking accountability of the product that they manufacture, because of which there are certain ingredients in the protein products that we have in the market which eventually causes problems to the customers, which is what came out in the media. Then we spoke about your marketing budget. Like I mentioned, Amul spends 1%, whereas HUL spends 10% of its revenue into marketing. And you mentioned that the reason why Amul is able to do this is because everything comes under one brand, which is Amul. You have a very strong legacy, which is a nation builder legacy. And then the communication is both consistent, it is cost efficient, and more importantly, the context is very well set. One example of that is your Butter Girl campaign, whereby you have a central continuity character, which is the girl herself, and then you have topical advertising. And because of topical advertising, you're able to stay on top of the mind of all the consumers. And because you have a single brand, whenever they look at the billboard, the Amul brand comes up. And more importantly, it gives you free virality, which eventually turns into earned media marketing rather than paid media marketing, because of which you spend very less into marketing and yet you stay on top of the mind of every consumer possible. And then we spoke about MSP, and what we understood is that the government is primarily facing a problem not with giving the right price to the farmers, but primarily with demand prediction, which eventually translates into supply problem. You mentioned that while the government currently is capable of procuring the crops, there is a dire need to be able to predict the demand both domestically as well as in abroad. And that's not the job of the government, which is where your Ministry of Cooperation comes into play, which has formed this body whereby there are five cooperatives, where Amul being one of the primary stakeholders, and you are now predicting global demand and domestic demand, acting as an intermediator. You're helping the farmers and you're paying them the highest amount possible, just like your Amul philosophy. And then you're selling these products both domestically as well as internationally, because you have the intelligence of being able to predict demand and being able to understand demand both domestically as well as internationally. And here's where you're also venturing into organic farming, which is something that is very new to Amul and very few people come to know about it. And you've also mentioned that this is not something that is just on paper. You've already executed it, whereby in the last 1 year, you have exported 15 lakh tons of goods to 25 countries with a turnover of 5,000 crores. And you also intend to tap into the existing markets and the growing markets abroad, especially the Middle East market, as you mentioned, that just for fresh vegetables, the market is as big as 30,000 crores. And if we start tapping into that, we will be able to 6x the output that you have right now, which is of 5,000 crores. And you said that there is a primary requirement of a cooperative model over here and not a private model, because both these philosophies are completely opposite of each other, whereby our IPO question came into play. You mentioned that if a company goes IPO, they primarily require money, which Amul already has. They optimize on profits, which Amul doesn't. You are in the business of livelihood and not milk. And most importantly, the moment investors come in, their expectation will be the complete opposite of what Amul intends to do, which is not optimize on profits and optimize for the people, the stakeholders, the 4 stakeholders that we mentioned. And once this entity falls at the center of both farmers and global and domestic demand, we will be able to build a sustainable model whereby the government doesn't need to exist in the supply chain. MSP will not even be a question. You will by default provide the best price to the farmers, at the same time best price for the consumers, because that's primarily what you've been doing for a very long time. And then we also had this discussion about Amul's franchise model. And you mentioned that you just take a brand deposit of just 25 to 30K, which is refundable. If a shop wants to become an Amul franchise today, by tomorrow morning, it can be turned into an Amul franchise. And you have about 300 to 500 SKUs, which this shop can keep, which ensures that because you have such a large portfolio, the footfall will happen regardless of what time of the day. सुबह दूध बिकेगा, रात को आइसक्रीम बिकेगा, दोपहर को दही बिकेगा. तो all throughout the day, your SKUs will keep on going out, because of which the shop will have consistent demand. As a result, the viability for the store is more likely to happen as compared to other brands. And then you mentioned the economics of the store, whereby a retailer as big as DMart does 30,000 rupees in revenue per square feet, whereas some Amul stores do 3 lakh rupees per square feet, which is 10x as that of DMart, which is absolutely incredible. And this is not a large store. This is a store which is as small as 150 to 200 square feet. You mentioned that the revenue of an Amul store, the turnover of the Amul store per day comes out to be around 30,000 rupees per day. For the month, it is about 9 lakh rupees, out of which you can expect a 10% net margin. And there is a split. It's not a straightforward math. 50% comes from fresh products. 20 to 25% comes from your value-added products, if I'm not wrong, sir. Ambient products. And then 15 to 20% comes from the ice cream products. Is that correct, sir? Frozen foods. And the margins go like 5 to 8% for milk. Then you have ambient products where the margins are around 8 to 10%, and for frozen it's about 15 to 20%. Okay. There are multiple types of safety that you address to, and these are primarily based on the risk that the franchisees might face. Number one is the risk of not having enough products, and you have 300 to 500 SKUs, so that's not a problem. Number two is the delivery of the products not happening on time while the stocks are going out, because you're in the FMCG space. It is important to keep every store of yours stocked up. And for that, you've already built the D2R supply chain, which is direct to retailer. And that's primarily because of the inherent nature of the supply chain that you have, whereby if I have to order a product just like it comes from a dark store, if the retailer orders the product, it will come from a nearby warehouse, which is not more than 10 kilometers away from any retailer. As a result, there is no supply chain problem. And all these stocks are fresh because, again, of the inherent nature of the business by itself, whereby if you can deliver milk freshly, which gets spoiled within 4 hours from the farmer to the consumer, you can obviously deliver ice creams while they are fresh. So the wastage is very less, the supply is very consistent, and the product portfolio is vast enough to maintain a consistent revenue. Yeah, sir. I think this is all. Does that sum up our conversation, sir?
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you
I just
summarized it so well. I'm very impressed. Good. Thank you so
sir.
much.
Thank you so much.